Hi, and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 At Last It's Back podcast. It's Paul here with...
Sean.
Chris.
Lee.
And we're all in the same room, all four of us. First time, 4 months.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
All four of us.
With a race to talk about.
In the podcast room.
Like
It's
nothing had ever happened.
It's all proper and stuff.
Where's the video camera?
It is now like if that felt like the end of a Halloween Simpsons episode, and it should have been me going like nothing had ever happened, and the camera slowly goes through the window, and outside is just zombies.
Yes.
No, that was 2 weeks ago when the pubs opened.
Yes.
Over here.
Yeah.
Fucking beautiful moment was that.
I am yet to return to
Oh,
I have
24
not
hours I think
been.
it took me.
Took me a week.
Yeah, it was great. Loved it.
Anyway, so the pubs. F1's back.
F1
is.
is back.
And by God, is it back with a vengeance after Sunday.
Back with a bang.
Well, there was bangs, there was whimpers, there was hisses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
loose tyres and
Yeah.
all sorts.
F1 review this today was the number one trend that highlights on YouTube.
Oh, brilliant.
Ah.
Very good.
Crazy.
Do you know, I never look at YouTube trends. I forget that's a thing.
I did watch the Team Radio video on YouTube today because they put some Team Radio that you may have missed on. That was Best of Team Radio on the Formula One channel on YouTube. That was quite fun as well. Listening to
Good.
listen to some of the Team Radio that we missed.
Hey Lando was one of the top trends in the UK Sunday afternoon.
Lots of Lando themed
Yes.
stuff.
People were happy about that. That was such a shame he didn't have an audience for his podium.
I know what you mean.
That is now the last 3 McLaren podiums where they haven't had a proper audience for the person on the podium.
Well, at least he got to the podium.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
better
mean-
than the last two.
Yeah, I mean that makes a change. You know, baby steps.
Yeah.
You know, next time we see McLaren on the podium, we could have a proper podium celebration without the as they got called at the weekend, dressing Daleks.
Yes, dressing Daleks.
Yeah, the little remote control boxes that they wheel onto the grid with the hat and the water and the towel.
So is that done with an app? Do we think like the parking thing with your Teslas? Because you can park your Tesla, you can get out and park your Tesla with an app if you want.
Oh.
I wonder if that's the same idea. Just move that towards the drivers so that they can get dressed.
This is why they don't have the podium celebrations on the podium, because those things can't go upstairs.
Yeah,
They're real
Daleks. Yeah, the real
They're
Daleks.
real 1970s style Daleks.
Yeah.
They should go to Indy because they've got that new lift now with the car.
Oh yeah, that was a thing at the weekend. The winning car goes up to the podium on a lift.
They did that with F1, didn't they, last year? Was it Mexico?
Was it a full lift or was it just like a sort of plinth?
I think that was a little plenty.
That might have been like a
This thing
posing
was about
plinth.
15 foot high and proper.
It went up and then he had to like drive it off the lift onto the podium.
Oh no! This is the one in Formula One. It was just a piston lift, I think.
This is
I think it was a
full
Mercedes that won the
hydraulic
race.
platform, Yeah.
Yeah, and it went up to the podium, and then they did the podium celebrations in front of the winning car. That was last
This was
year.
very much with the car.
Yeah,
I don't understand why they're not using the podium.
can't keep 2 meters apart, but then they go and shake hands with each other anyway. So
Yeah.
And
No,
then-
but I don't understand why you can't, because podium's big. There's it just seems strange. It seems like an odd thing. I know you couldn't have all the people up there and you couldn't have them standing in the driver's room, but I still think you could have risked sticking 3 people on
I think it's just a case of getting it over and done with quicker rather than going into the cool down room and then going up on the podium and having the announcements. You know, if they just do it on the grid, it's get out the car, get it over and done with. And
Same
get
time
moving.
though, isn't it? Because they were a long time. You know, because don't forget they did the interviews down there as well.
I think they probably could quite easily do exactly what they did at the weekend.
Because it was
on the podium.
it's a horrible way to do a podium.
And they
It is, but we just-
still used the podium for they had like
They had the national
race
anthem done from up
entertainment
there,
there,
Yeah,
didn't they?
yeah.
So
which was slightly less Euro poppy than last year's national anthem because they didn't get the one hit wonders opus to.
I'd forgotten about that. Maybe they're this week.
Oh, we could.
Don't want to peek
Styrian
too soon.
anthem.
Yeah.
Do you have regional anthems in Austria? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Speaking of the podium, shout out to King of Casuals on Twitter for listener dedication.
Go on.
Because on the 31st of December in 2017, I retweeted Lando Norris because he put a picture of himself winning a race and doing his champagne thing off the podium.
Yeah, where he smashes the champagne.
So I retweeted that, and the King of Casuals remembered this and retweeted my tweet of it saying, "I hope we see this on an F1 podium soon."
Wow, okay.
That's
some
There we
dedication.
go.
Commitment.
That's some dedication to the podcast. Well done, King of Casuals.
There is a file.
Give him his full name. Former podcast guest, Lando Norris.
Yes, former podcast guest.
Sorry,
There
Sean.
is
Friend
a
of the
file
show.
on YouTube called Anthem of Styria. Do we want me to whack the volume
Ooh.
on my phone and see what happens?
Yes.
Da, 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 da.
It's a bit Coronation Streety.
It's a little bit also like the old Hovis advert.
Christmassy.
It's a little bit Eagle. Welcome to the USA.
Have we
No, I
got
think
the
it's
gist?
Christmassy.
Do we want-
I think we've got. You
Yeah,
can't put
I
your brother in your
think
phone.
it's Christmas shopping, sort of late night Thursday.
Yeah, Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Bye bye, US.
Yeah. I'm in Manchester Christmas markets, but somehow I feel like I'm in Bavaria.
Pissed and about to find a prostitute.
I can't speak English.
Do you know what? Last time,
Manchester, then.
last time we were at the Manchester Christmas markets, Man
We're
City
pissed
were
and
playing
looking
like
for prostitutes.
Wolfsburg or Bayer Leverkusen.
Oh,
or
yeah,
one
yeah.
of that lot in the Champions League. So it was very German.
Yeah, they were playing. I was there for the Manchester Christmas markets 2017, and they were playing Feyenoord, I think it was, in the Champions League. And I couldn't understand why I couldn't understand the fans in the pub because their accent sounded English, but I couldn't understand any of the words.
Feyenoord.
Manchester.
Sounds like an ace metal
Yeah,
band.
Manchester Feyenoord.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They all dress up as Nords.
on fire.
I think I've got 3 of their albums.
You surprise me not. Anyway, Formula One.
Yeah, well, moving speed metally away from that.
We got a little bit of news before we get into the race, haven't we? A little bit.
A little bit. Some news stories related to what's come out after the race, which we'll deal with at the time. But the big news this week, the Ferrari upgrade I'm talking about. The big news at the moment is that Jack Aitken is going to get his first test session for Williams on Friday morning in Styria. He wasn't able to test in Austria, but apparently he's good to test in Styria.
Yeah, which is
Some
strange.
dude's passport.
It's strange giving him an FP1 so early in the season, isn't it? I say early in the season, it is the latest start ever
Yes.
Yeah.
to a Formula One season. So summer, you might expect a reserve driver to get like an FP1. But given that Latifi's only done one race and George Russell, yes, okay, he's the leader of that team. Also, he's only one season in. Giving away an FP1 at the beginning of the second race of the season, just seems a bit.
Does, yeah.
It seems a bit.
Yeah, I think he's using George Russell's car, so Latifi's not going to lose out on any track time because, of course,
that will make more sense for the team, but
yeah.
even still, George Russell's not what you'd call a hard-nosed veteran.
No.
Not really.
I know he got upset with he happened to give his car away a couple of times last year, didn't he? For FP1s when it happened.
Oh, did he? I missed that.
But yeah, it seems odd. But what I mean, we're going to talk about this later on in the race, I suppose. But what did you think of Latifi for a first?
For a first race, fine. Fairly
Unspectacular.
uneventful.
Do you
Got
not
to the
think he
checkered
should have
flag.
been a bit closer to Russell?
Russell didn't finish though.
No. I mean, just on pace.
Well, no, because first to finish, you must to finish first you must finish. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mechanical issue there, wasn't it, for George?
Yeah.
But I mean, even still, yeah, his pace wasn't spectacular.
Because we used to rag on Kubica, but at least Kubica for like a majority of the season kept George company.
But we gave Kubica more than a couple of races to sort of prove himself. We
Yeah,
should probably
yeah,
do
yeah,
the same.
And
absolutely.
Kubica wasn't
Yeah.
a rookie.
Yeah, we should probably do the same for Nick Latifi.
I think Kubica was basically a rookie, given the difference in formula and the time he'd been out, and the fact he was missing bits of his body.
But the actual process of the weekend he's gone through before.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe,
Completely new to
maybe
him.
I'm not classing Latifi as an actual rookie, given the amount of time he's had, the amount of free practice he's had, and the amount of time he's just been in that grid. You know, he's been a fixture of F2, hasn't he, for a while?
Yeah,
He had been for a few.
three
I think it
seasons.
might have been 3, 4.
4 even?
This is, I think, why they're going to be chucking Aitken in the car now, because I think this is his 3rd year.
Yeah.
This is his 2nd young driver program. They've been very aggressive in signing unattached F2 drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously getting ready for what if we lose George Russell.
Yeah.
Which
I
would
will-
make sense because,
They've-
yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
wonder if they'll give Tictum a go as well.
I don't
some
think
point.
Tictum has enough points to do a Friday.
I
practice.
didn't
not,
realise until this weekend Dan Tictum is not from New Zealand.
No, he's British.
English.
Yes.
Yeah.
For some reason, I had it in my head that he was from New Zealand. Then I
Mate.
heard him talking. I was like, that man is British.
I've been championing him. You know I'm sports racist. I only champion British
Sports
drivers.
racist?
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got Tictum.
Sports.
They've got Tictum. They've got Aitken, and they've also got Roy Nissany, who, as far as I can tell, is shit but loaded.
But also beat Mick Schumacher in the F2 feature
Everyone
race.
beat Mick Schumacher. He had a horrific weekend. But they've also got
Tickers didn't.
Very true. He did all right. They've also got Jamie Chadwick, who has just signed with Prema for one of the
is it
European.
F3?
No, I think it's for European regional.
Oh, I thought it was F3 that she was
No.
going
No,
into.
Sophia Flörsch is the token female in F3 this year.
Who and she has kicked off because Formula One Sky in Germany, so Sky F1 Deutschland,
Sky Deutschland.
have been bigging up the fact that there are 3 Schumachers to watch out for, as in Ralph on the commentary team.
Oh wow.
Mick and David.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's Dave.
Dave
Yeah.
Schumacher.
Dave Schumacher.
And but she kicked off that there is another German driver to look out for, you know.
Yeah, but they
Uh-huh.
weren't picking German drivers out. They were picking
Schumachers
Schumachers out.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
Yes. All Schumachers are German, but
Yeah.
not all Germans are Schumachers.
I think that tweet was one of those tweets that felt like a good idea at the time.
and until everyone turned around and went, "What are you doing?"
The comment section
Stay
was
quiet.
rough.
Yes,
Shit.
Was her
yes, it was. Yes.
rough.
I've
Yeah.
missed that. I might have to go and have a skeet there.
Yeah,
in a bit.
that needs a look at. But
I didn't know who she was, so I did ask, "Who are you?"
She's the one who had the accident in Macau.
Yeah.
Who you wouldn't know who she was if she hadn't had the accident in Macau.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, she put the car in the grandstand.
Yeah.
And broke her back, but she's fine because she was like 16, 17 when she did that.
She was 17. It was the week before her 18th birthday.
Oh dear.
She had her 18th birthday. In,
And I'm
like,
sure she's a very
Port-au-Prince.
competent racing driver.
Yeah.
But until she does anything like entirely on merit, and it's the same for all racing drivers,
Mhm.
until she does anything on merit, same with all racing drivers from all nationalities, they're not going to get noticed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The ability in terms. I mean,
Well, we definitely noticed Mahiva Raghunathan last year.
Purely because, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, being lapped on lap 3 in F2.
Yeah. Being 4 seconds a lap, 4 seconds a lap on average off the pace. In an identical car to
In
the guy who's
spec
yeah,
series.
exactly.
Yeah.
these are not the makings of a world champion.
No, they are not.
Funnily enough, he has not returned. I don't know where he's gone. He might have just not turned up yet, but
Yeah, I was thinking randomly the other night, whatever happened to Alfonso Celis? And apparently he's retired at 23.
Yeah, he
The
was
one who
told
always used to do the Force India test.
he was told he wasn't getting a seat at Force India when the Stroll consortium took over, and he I think he retired, as you say. I think that he was just like, well, if I'm not getting he did a Valsecchi. If I'm not getting to Formula One, I'm out.
I think it's actually formerly referred to as a Susie Wolf. Yeah.
At least Valsecchi won something.
Yeah,
This is what I hate. I hate when people turn around and say motorsport is just for rich people, when you can turn around and say, I can't get what I want, so I'm retiring at 20 odd.
well, look at Jaime Alguersuari. He retired when he, I think, was he offered a Formula E seat after Formula One?
But he went to be a DJ.
Yeah.
No, he's retired from motorsport to become a DJ. He's
became a
now
DJ.
he's now a top level DJ, getting booked
yeah,
at like
yeah, yeah.
massive festivals.
Is it, what's his name?
Squire or
Yeah, that's
something
it.
like
Yeah,
that,
yeah. I had Shadow in my head then. I thought, no, he's not DJ Shadow.
No,
No, that guy's a bit older and a bit more French.
yeah, but Jaime Alguersuari still only 30.
That's ridiculous.
Been retired from motorsport for 6 years.
Wow. I still think him and John-Eric Verne are the two biggest misses from the the meat grinder.
Yeah, I think so, because they were they were competitive.
Definitely Jev, and I think he was more than capable to be like a Perez level Formula One driver, Alguersuari.
Yeah, we'll give them a good car, and I think they would have been. If had any of them made it into the Red Bull,
yeah,
I think we would have seen the levels of driving that you'd expect from a Red Bull driver.
I think they're both better than who's in the AlphaTauri right now.
Probably, yeah, could say that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
So Jack Aitken is doing the
Jack
FP1.
Aitken doing FP1 on Friday in George Russell's Williams.
So it could be that, as we just speculated then, that was it you, Sean, that said that maybe Williams are preparing for the loss of George Russell at the end of 2020.
If he
I have a
starts getting
feeling
the call higher up the grid, they need to know what's going in that car.
I have a feeling George Russell is signed for 2021 at Williams.
He has a many-year contract, not even multi-year. He said many years.
There will be a get-out
But
clause,
Mercedes still own him.
Yes.
Even if you're George Russell, even if you're not thinking of your seat at Mercedes.
Please, full name. Former podcast guest.
And friend of the show, George Russell.
And cousin. Yeah.
Of myself.
Yeah.
I think you wouldn't tie yourself, even if you weren't worried about just getting to Mercedes, you wouldn't tie yourself to Williams, certainly not considering where they are.
Yeah. I imagine most drivers anyway have I will drive for you unless I get offered this somewhere else.
And let's face it, if there's any performance clause at all, Williams failed it.
Yeah, quite likely. Quite likely.
I don't think Red Bull drivers or AlphaTauri drivers have the "I will drive for you unless I get a better offer."
Probably not, but that's because their contract is written in Helmut Marko's blood, I suspect. Is the issue
Doesn't
there.
have any.
He's
Lava.
His plasma.
The Red Bull driver sort of book where they have to sign the contract and it's like bound in human skin.
Made from
The
former meat
Necronomicon.
grinder victims.
The neck Red Bullicon.
It's just with the chin of David Coulthard on the bottom of it.
Square off the edges.
I forgot what the other news story was. Oh yeah, Renault.
Cyril Abiteboul has mumbled to the staff at Renault.
Can we be 100% sure this is what he said? Has anyone verified
No,
it?
it's not been verified. This is the thing.
I believe Autosport have now invented what they call the Enigma machine, and then they run all his sort of sentences through that, and it comes out.
No, it's
Good.
no. With him, it's
Good.
called the Enema machine because most of what he says comes out of his arse.
But yeah, the Cyril Abiteboul has
Still clearer than anything he said.
Yeah, absolutely. Has allegedly spoken to the staff that the Renault 2021 driver announcement will be made on. Was it Wednesday this week? So
at least not Tuesday.
Yeah, so you could be
Still
listening
a
to
bit
this
of a pain
podcast
in the
and
ass
it's been
for us.
made. The rumour has started in Spain and has spread to France, but there's been no actual confirmation as to whether this is the case. But
Or more importantly, official denial.
the staff have been told that this is the rumour. The rumour is that the staff have been told that it is a driver that they have worked with previously.
Vitaly Petrov.
Well,
I think it's too late for Petrov.
It's probably too late for Petrov. It's more likely to be, isn't it? Let's be honest here. It's more likely to be Sirotkin, who is their
on
current
the books.
reserve. Nico Hülkenberg,
Yep.
or the outside bet. Contain yourself, Lee.
I think this is the inside bet.
Fernando
Joey
Alonso.
Palmer.
Fernando
I
Alonso.
think Palmer is more likely than Alonso.
I think Alonso is more likely just because of how heavily it's been rumoured. It's been rumoured really heavily. Alonso has basically said he's coming back to Formula One in 2021.
Alonso says a lot of things, though.
Yeah, but he usually does them.
Usually, I didn't know anything about that scandal.
Yeah. You see, even those things he definitely did. But no, I'm convinced it'll be Alonso. Convinced.
I don't think so. One, because the Cyril Abiteboul era Renault did not work with Alonso. Two, I think if it's someone they've worked with before, it's going to have to be someone more recent. And They were talking about they're going to wait and see people on the track and make a decision once racing starts.
I
don't know what
remembered who
Alonso's
it is.
contributed to that. Oh, is it you?
No, there are two other drivers we've totally...
Bruno Senna.
No. The two other
Roman
drivers we've
Grosjean?
totally... Yes. Roman Grosjean and Pastor Maldonado.
Christ. Now, Pastor Maldonado has been campaigning hard on Instagram about his comeback.
It's Pastor or it's Roman.
It can't be Pastor.
Can't be Roman, surely.
No, not after this weekend. 2
No.
gravel trips.
And they certainly wouldn't be sort of...
I don't think either of those were his fault, but
No.
we'll get to that in the
unless the like when he went to the factory to speak to the team, said instead of us going like him walking in and go, yeah, like you've worked with this guy before. He's going like, look, I'm really sorry about this. You've worked with this guy before. It's all to do with how the sentence started.
Yeah. You've worked with this driver before. You've worked with this driver before.
But no, I reckon it'll be Alonso, and I because even the fact that the rumors coming out about, which probably won't happen if we're honest, but the rumors coming out that Daniel Ricciardo was essentially going to get nerfed before the end of the year, and they were going to bring Alonso back early.
That would have been interesting, but
I still think there's an outside chance of that happening.
I think Romain Grosjean, Esteban Ocon in a French car. They're going to leave. I think he's had enough of Haas and their tomfoolery, and I think Grosjean is actually a genuine possibility to go to Renault.
I think they would have
because he left when they were Lotus.
2 C-tier drivers.
Maybe Roman's famed for giving great feedback on the car. Kind of what Renault need at the moment, and Ocon we don't really know.
That's what we've heard, that he's really good at giving feedback in the car.
His feedback is that he's really good at feedback.
Yeah, and let's face it, that the car that actually turned out to be all right that he drove was the one he drove with Kimi, that was in the team as well. And it's not like the other cars he's been in have developed their way up the grid.
No,
true,
this is true.
I'm surprised that they're making this announcement so soon, given that they have Guan Yu Zhou in F2, who is one of the favourites for the title. If he wins it, they're going to need to do something with him.
I would like to see Guan Yu Zhou in Formula One. He came
handy
across
than
really
Grosjean.
well in the when he did the virtual GP. I think one of the early virtual GPs, he was like the featured driver they were doing interviews with over webcam. He came across really well.
He had a nightmare of a weekend this weekend.
But not his fault.
No,
not his fault.
Yeah.
No, the car let him down.
I think he's off forgetting something, is that Renault needs something else. It's like when they signed Daniel Ricciardo, they need a message of intent. I don't think...
I don't think Grosjean is a message of intent.
I don't think any of them are. Hulkenberg certainly isn't. The only thing that would be worth like chatting about is if you sign Alonso again. Out of all those options, he's the only person newsworthy. And I think that's what they need. I think they need that message.
Seems very short term though to me. You know, Alonso's going to do what, 2 years maximum probably.
That's what doesn't make sense. That would be fine if they had a load of like wonder kids in F3, but they've got a bunch of,
I would be
they've
surprised.
They've got Christian Lundgaard as well, who's pretty handy.
Is he F2 now? Yeah.
He's debuting F2 this year, but looked quite good last year. So,
but let's look at look at the way the cars are now. The way we're constantly told how much easier cars are to drive. The what we've done now as far as like training and medical science goes, and like the condition people are in for longer, they're in a better condition for longer. 2022 the cars are going to be slower again. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that it's never been like the drivers that fell out of Formula One. If you take a Button or a Barrichello for instance, it's not been that all of a sudden they got slow. There was definitely another 2 years in Jenson Button. There was another year at least in Barrichello should he want to do it. Drivers don't get slow, they get burnt out. So the fact that Alonso's been away and he's coming back, I don't think that puts that time limit on him. I think it's the constant grind of Formula One that gets people down before the physical wear and tear of it.
And something else that would lend it toward being Alonso would be that the rumour appeared to start in Spain.
But this rumor hasn't just come around, has it? You know, it's we were told before lockdown. Was it before lockdown when we were talking about going into testing that a contract had been agreed but not signed between Alonso and Renault? And I can't help think that was the reason that wasn't signed was because Alonso was still waiting to see what was going on with Ferrari and Mercedes as well at the time.
We've always heard this with Alonso, though, haven't we? That he's definitely had a contract offer from this person and Red Bull. And I think my theory has always been that Flavio over-eggs the interest to Alonso to get him excited.
Maybe.
And Alonso's like, oh my God, everyone loves me.
Yeah, maybe.
Whereas there's a huge difference between having talks and actually having an offer.
But I think in this situation for Renault, it's what they need. They've just had the guy which was going to get them where they wanted to go has decided to leave them for the team that he could have joined in the first place.
Yeah.
I think they need something else.
Wild theory. Technically, some of the engineering side at Renault would have worked with Vettel.
That's interesting.
When Renault made engines for Red Bull.
Someone you've worked with before.
That's you know what?
I'm throwing that into the mix.
Not think of that.
No, that's
Neither
more,
did I. Totally missed that as well.
More likely,
that would be early Wednesday news, wouldn't it?
That's now more likely than anyone else apart from Alonso. I still think Alonso is the most likely.
I think Vettel's more
Vettel's
likely than
second.
Alonso.
Heard it here first. Literally, that's popped into my head.
Good thought. Totally forgot that Vettel doesn't have a seat for next year.
And it also would make sense given how what the Ferrari was like this weekend. It would make sense that Vettel's just gone fuck this shit and gone straight to Cyril Abiteboul this weekend and said,
"Yeah, we saw him talking to Red Bull, didn't we?
Yeah.
He's been pimping himself around the paddock all weekend."
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's spoken, like Lee said then, I wouldn't be surprised if after this weekend, or at some point during this weekend, he's gone either on the phone or just popped over to Renault and just been like, Cyril, what we spoke about, I'm in.
Yeah, well, let's not be fucking stupid about this here. I know there was a podium had by them, but Ferrari are double fucked at the minute. Double
for
now.
I think they got very lucky with their result. It flatters them.
It does totally. Yeah, even Leclerc was. I mean, we'll talk about this in the race review, but Leclerc was honest about that. He said that, the troubles are bigger than the result.
Yeah, nearly everybody that went out was ahead of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've all seen the onboard footage of the lap that Vettel's wrestling the car around.
Yeah.
Good God, anybody else in that car would have struggled to be would have struggled to get out of Q1.
I think the other thing that I think's been missed as well, because again this is kind of race talk, but because we're talking about Vettel and Ferrari and stuff. What's being missed is that spin ridiculous. It was a stupid spin to make, and it's the sort of thing we've seen from Vettel now and again quite regularly.
Impatient.
If you had backwards spinning Vettel on your drinking game, you would have included it on the drinking game, wouldn't you? It would have been an obvious hit.
But I don't think enough people have picked up on the fact that he was quicker than Charles Leclerc up until that point, and then he radioed through and said, "Look, I've damaged my car." When that spun, without that spin, he'd have finished ahead of Charles Leclerc.
Quite possibly. But it was a stupid move, and it was his mistake. It wasn't the car.
Well,
it was his mistake.
The only thing I go here to defend Vettel is we're saying it's his mistake, but we saw how twitchy that car was. So there's nothing to say that he hasn't lit the back tyres up, and it's just the fact that the car is so badly
he hit Perez, didn't he? Trying to overtake him.
Sainz,
he didn't.
Sainz, was
it? They didn't touch.
I'm pretty sure they did.
I don't think they touched. I'd have a look at it.
Sure
I would definitely go and have a look at it because I'm convinced they didn't touch each other. I think Vettel lost it all on his own and kind of spun around Perez. If you have another look at it,
I think from the aerial one it looked like they touched, but
I thought they touched from that chase cam thing. But it was when you're on board with Vettel, I'm convinced they didn't touch.
If he didn't touch, that's damning for Vettel.
Oh yeah, it was a stupid move. Like it was a stupid thing to do because he just stuck the nose in and lost the car. But I can't help think that that's more car than Vettel.
Well, he said he was surprised he'd only spun once.
Mm-hmm.
I found a video of it here.
No.
This is making for thrilling listening.
Hard to tell from this angle. Here we are. We're on board with Vettel. Vettel's coming up. He's miles back. He's so far behind. Oh, it's a very light tap.
He doesn't touch.
It's a very, very. I think it's a light tap.
And because it was a McLaren as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sainz. It is Sainz. Yeah.
I don't think he touches him.
Ah.
Sainz doesn't move.
It's not much of a tap. It's not much of contact if there is contact. Put it that way. So yeah, that reflects even worse on Vettel when you
Yeah.
when you look at that.
It was
you
a
shouldn't be
it was
going
stupid.
backwards.
No,
You shouldn't
no.
be going backwards.
So anyway, let's race time.
Yeah, start from the back.
Yeah.
Red
Red
Bull.
Bull.
Red Bull.
Yeah, if we're going over
The worst team
To
in
new
Formula
listeners.
At
One.
the Red Bull ring.
yeah.
With the worst drivers.
Helmut Marko is going to just smash someone, I suspect.
Well, to new listeners, we usually start at the back with the team that did
Probably
the worst
Albon.
and work forwards to the team that did the best. But after one race, we have obviously got the constructor standings, meaning that's how everybody finished. And currently,
aside from like 90% of them on the BBC website.
yeah, well, we're not like, BBC can't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. 10th place are Red Bull in the championship at the moment.
Double DNF.
Double
Mhm.
DNF. Verstappen's was that mechanical failure on lap 14. I felt really sorry for him.
Yeah.
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 Great job.
Somehow the anti-stall kicked in.
Great job, like physically bump starting it
Mhm.
all the way back to the pits, because that's not going to be easy.
No.
Probably when he got to the top of the hill, he could probably roll down the hill a bit, but
yeah, but he had to bump start it up the hill.
yeah, he
It's
was
like he had
uphill
some
bump
sort of
starting.
fusion reactor in the back of his van.
Yeah,
Van? Car?
but the
Never got to 88 miles an hour though.
No.
I don't think he did. But yeah, great job to get it back to the pits. But by the time he got back to the pits, the Mercedes were already coming round again. So he was already a lap down on everyone by the time they thought they got it sorted, and then it just
Well, it fired up and died again in the pits.
Yeah.
they were
Yeah, he
saying,
tried
so-
to go, didn't he? And then just ceased.
and then he got out before they even put the car in the garage. So the frustration on Verstappen was notable. I think he would have been even with safety cars and everything else, I think he would have been a late surprise, much like last year, because of the tyre strategy that he was on. I think he was going to go mediums and then softs probably for his late stint.
I think we've got to assume he'd have been in a similar, if not slightly better position to what Albon found himself in when he tried to make that pass on Hamilton. Kind of assume Verstappen would have probably picked his moment.
A bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Verstappen was the only one of the top 10 starters on mediums.
yeah, that's what I mean. He would his was the most interesting tyre strategy to watch, and unfortunately the car let him down.
Also, just you've got to think of the fact he's just clean faster than Albon. You know, there would have been a chance he could have undercut one of the or overcut one of the Mercs. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
right up to that point, he was looking rapid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say, which I think would be worrying for Red Bull, because I thought Red Bull were going to be title contenders this year. And if you look at it, like Merc looks super strong. You know, I know there was that reliability worries that they had at the race.
Yep.
But we shouldn't forget that when all of these cars were breaking down, even though Merc had reliability problems, they still both finished.
They both crossed. Well, we'll get to them later, but they both crossed the line first and second.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Hamilton Albon incident. Albon seems to think that this is more clear-cut Lewis Hamilton's fault than the one in Brazil, and I have to disagree. I thought Brazil was mostly Lewis Hamilton's fault for going for a gap. I gotta say, I think Albon was probably a little impatient. Lewis Hamilton didn't steer into Albon, but at the same time,
I mean, you
Albon could have picked his spot a lot
I
better.
You could see from Lewis's onboard that his steering wheel didn't move and he was pointing the car right
Yeah.
all the way through that corner. If
He
anything,
didn't open up the steering.
he
He didn't try to go left.
understeered into him, but when you're on fairly old tyres, because I think he was on
Used hards at that point.
he was on quite a used set, wasn't he?
Yeah, it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah. No, I don't think Hamilton was trying to wipe him out. It was racing incident, but they always penalise the driver who is slightly behind at the corner exit.
Yeah.
And Albon's nose was in front.
Yeah.
Oh, Albon was way in front. But
I still think it was a racing incident.
I would say so, but you know,
And to be perfectly honest, I think it's a bad race because it is so like hit and miss of what it is. I don't think there should have been a penalty because when you start giving penalties for these moves in a sport where we constantly say you can't overtake and people like stick behind people,
it's going to create the fear, isn't it?
Yeah, the fear of trying to go for a move. And see, the reason I think he was impatient as well is because I think he'd have had to start the next lap, and I think he'd have struggled to get past him into turn 1. Yeah, but up the hill,
That's where you would have gone.
But I don't think he'd have got him on the inside. But just because he had the soft tyres on, I think he could have got him with traction on the exit of that corner
That's what I
down
mean.
to.
That's what I mean. He still had like 10 laps left at that point,
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that? So just a little bit. I remember. I think Martin Brundle said on the commentary, "Patience, Alex. You need a little bit of
five
patience."
laps, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Was it something like that?
But
Oh,
still,
no,
on,
sorry, it was
on
10,
fairly
sorry.
new softs, when the cars in front of
Yeah.
you are struggling with gearboxes and on well-used hards, you've got time.
Yeah. You got time. You got a bit of patience. You don't have to go for it straight away. And yes, his car was in front, but you've got to accept that might happen if you put your car in that position.
Yeah. I think
Bit
a little bit of
petulant.
naivety on his part, and I think just maybe a tiny bit of clumsiness from Hamilton. Just sort of, he
I don't-
knew the car was there.
Yeah, he
They
wasn't.
both could have avoided it, I think.
He didn't. Neither of them tried to have an accident.
It wasn't the move that Rosberg pulled at the same track.
No.
No, it wasn't. No, that was deliberate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do feel sorry for Albon because I think had he got past Hamilton cleanly, he probably would have won that race.
Yeah, because if he'd have got past Hamilton, I don't think Bottas would have been as hard a person to get past.
No. I think. I think Albon probably would have won the race if he got past Hamilton cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
But even with no points on the board, it's an encouraging start for Red Bull because they've come out of the blocks with a quick car. It's whether they can keep that car together.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is a good start for Red Bull because when you look at where Red Bull were last year, they won that race on pace. They couldn't win this race on pace.
It was later in the year, though.
Mm.
At the
Oh,
start
yeah,
of the
that-
season
yeah.
last year, Red Bull were behind
Yeah,
Mercedes.
Yeah.
but even like, this is the problem now. Like if Red Bull wanted to win a championship, like with Max Verstappen, they needed to be fighting Mercedes, and they didn't.
Well, they could have done. We just don't know what would happen with Max Verstappen had his car not broken down.
I still think it would have had to be shenanigans. It would have had to be tyre related because Max didn't seem like he was hanging on to them. But I think that was Mercedes managing a gap more than that. I mean, again, we've still got the reliability, but I'm just talking on a pace basis. Yeah, the Austria is a speed circuit, but it's not an engine circuit. That's why teams like Red Bull have done so well in the past. Button had his best finish for McLaren Honda there. I think he best qualified. He started third, didn't he? Finished
Something like that.
Fourth?
Finished fifth,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
fourth, fifth. When the Honda engine was a dog. So if Red Bull aren't on Mercedes when power doesn't matter as much, I don't see how they're going to be. As soon as we get away from Hungary, once we get out of Hungary, what happens to them?
Yeah, it was the first three races. I was saying when the calendar came out with the Verstappen circuits,
Mm-hmm.
2 Austrias and a Hungary.
I also think that Verstappen, with this short season, is unless something crazy happens with reliability to Mercedes this weekend, if they can both finish, he's out of the championship.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's not a great start to the championship for them, but they are closer. I think they're closer to Mercedes at the beginning of this season. Okay, it's a late beginning, but at the beginning,
First race.
yeah, they're closer at this first race than they were last year's first race, and they are by far the second best team. There's no doubt.
No, yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt that they are the only actual on-track challengers for Mercedes.
But the problem is, although this is the beginning of the season, we're still dealing with probably a half season.
we're probably going to get 15 races in.
I just don't think it's good enough
Roughly.
to challenge properly. And again, it's the circuit they should be challenging at.
We'll see how the development goes as well, because that's going to be interesting to see over such a short space of time.
They've got another go this weekend. I mean, apparently the Styrian circuit is very similar to the Austrian one.
Yeah, apparently so.
but potentially wetter, they seem to think.
Well, we thought it was going to rain this weekend, and it did not.
Disappointment.
Looking forward to it, and then Sunday morning.
The race
look
there
at-
was
look at
fine.
all those
It was fine
clouds
without
there
the
aren't
weather.
there.
Yeah, it was a Thursday or Friday, then they were just like, oh no, actually, this weather front's going to just totally miss us. It's going to be fine weather.
Right, and next up we have Haas. Another
Good
double
God.
DNF.
Yeah, Magnussen who was he defending from when he had his
It
brake
was
issue?
Ocon.
Ocon versus Magnussen. Ocon went past, and then Ocon was braking, and all of a sudden, Magnussen went past.
He just
Yeah.
carried on. He loved
But
that straight so much. He
he-
just kept going.
he had such a failure of brake disc that he didn't even try to make the corner.
No.
And I could not blame Kevin Magnussen for being like, fuck that.
Yeah. I also like the fact that he thought, I'm going straight into something here. Best spin the car around.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was possibly the best move that he's pulled in years.
It's a man
Yeah.
who knows how to crash, that is.
Yeah. It was Magnussen that brought out, was it the first safety car?
Yes.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, it was a brake disc failure. We know that Haas has suffered from brake
Mhm.
problems in the past. An early
breaking front wings, breaking rear wings.
but
Yeah, I mean, Grosjean lost all the running in one of the Friday sessions.
2000.
Yeah, Grosjean lost all the running in just about all the running in one of the Friday sessions because he had brake issues.
yeah.
Although it was brake pressure.
Although, yeah, he lost his pedal, didn't he? Went straight to the floor.
Yeah,
But
good.
the
needs a Fanatec load cell.
yeah, but the
Definitely not been looking at them.
yeah, you have. But the
600 quid for a brake
the brake
pedal.
problems that both Haas cars suffered are very reminiscent of Haas brake problems of the past, where we've seen them just go straight on at the end of long straights.
Yeah, what was it? 2018. They went through 2 different brake disc manufacturers and still couldn't get it right, and
Yep.
ended up having custom
It was
made ones.
Turned out to be a
and-
brake cooling issue, didn't it? I think in the end.
Yeah, which is ironic because they couldn't get any temperature into the rest of the tyres.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
But I
strange
would like
one
to
for Haas.
congratulate the Haas team for getting through the first pit stops in the first race of the season and keeping all 4 wheels on the car.
Yeah, but they did not look like rock stars.
No.
That is true.
Yeah.
Magnussen was having a good race until his brakes failed.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, he was battling with Ocon, and
He looked like
Ocon
good
finished in the
Magnussen.
points, did he not?
Yeah, they
So-
were looking.
Yeah.
They were looking
Yeah.
for. They were looking for points finish, perhaps for at least one of their cars. But the we saw Grosjean take a trip into the gravel, and we were like, of course, it's Grosjean, first spin of the season. But it didn't look like it was.
It looked funny, didn't it? Even by Grosjean standards.
Yeah,
was
it wasn't.
weird.
It wasn't like a driver didn't know what he was doing kind of spin. It was brake issues, and then obviously Grosjean then retired later on.
After going in the gravel again, but he kept the front wing attached all the way through. That's why we knew it wasn't a typical Grosjean.
Yes.
Doing these back-to-back races is probably quite good for the people that have just come back or the newbies, isn't it?
How do you mean? Sorry.
You know, like an Ocon who's
I
been
see.
out for
Yeah.
a while. You know,
Yeah,
it's-
possibly.
So he doesn't have to try and get the car set up or anything like that.
Yeah,
Friday
it's all
comes around,
sorted. Yeah.
Just
yeah.
in because saying
They can concentrate on pace in this coming
Yeah,
Styrian Grand Prix, which I think is going to be really interesting.
Mhm.
And,
Be interested how much the times come down.
yeah, it would be interesting to see.
Or if, in Ferrari's case.
Yeah.
Oh, well, anything with a Ferrari engine. Because all the Ferrari-powered cars were slower this year than they were last year.
Weird, isn't it? Isn't it?
The deficit
strange?
wasn't quite as big as we thought it was going to be, but in qualifying pace, it's worse than McLaren Honda's deficit.
Well, you say that, but what's his name?
Given that they had an advantage last
What's
year.
his name?
Giovinazzi?
No, the Ferrari boss. What is his-
Binotto.
Yeah, he said.
There's a man who hasn't had a lockdown haircut.
Not at all. He reckons it's 0.7 of a second behind the Mercedes.
No, it's 0.7 of a second off their last year's pace, more like.
Yeah, no, but that's where he reckons Ferrari is 0.2, nearly a second off per lap.
In race pace, maybe, but not in qualifying pace. Qualifying's a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't look good for any of the Ferrari powered.
Yeah, but this goes back to what
Cars
I'm saying
there.
about Red Bull, though, doesn't it? If they're that far behind Mercedes on a non-engine dependent circuit, what happens when we get to Spa?
Yeah.
Ferrari double fucked.
Possibly, yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of other factors to put in, but I know what you mean. On a normal sort of dry, sunny day,
Yeah.
no wind, no crashes, nothing happening. You have a straightforward race with Ferrari probably not going to be on the pace.
Nope.
Red Bull as well could be a little bit off. Again, it all depends on engine development and car development.
Well, that's the other thing Binotto said, that he didn't think they could do anything with the engine this year. He said they're bringing updates. They're going to bring aero updates and chassis updates and stuff.
Yeah.
But they can't fix the engine problem. There's no quick fix, apparently.
Yeah.
That's because they couldn't fix it quickly in the first place and they had to cheat like fuck.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. We don't know if they cheated or not, just because they're not allowed. They're not
I
allowed to
think
tell us
we know.
because it will reveal some of their internal secrets.
So they cheated there.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take the Ferrari fan backlash. They're definitely cheats. Definitely.
Yeah, and they can't get away with it now because whatever they were doing last year, and they're not allowed to do this year. And oops, they're really slow.
This is the problem, isn't it? When you rest yourself on something that you shouldn't be doing, and then it gets found out, what do you do then?
Move out, change your phone number. Oh, sorry.
No, because when you think of like what teams are trying to get, it's like all of a sudden Ferrari's like, fuck, now we've got to make 0.7 of a second per lap on Mercedes before we can make any improvements. We've got to find this pace we've lost from somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, the engine is an absolute dog.
But Williams are next on the list, and they're not Ferrari powered.
No,
they are Mercedes powered.
And George Russell
should have scored points.
Should have scored points and won me £250 if he'd done it.
Yeah, Latifi, obviously, we only had 12 finishes, didn't we, I think, in the end?
Latifi, I think it was technically 13 classified, but 11 saw the check.
Kvyat wasn't.
11 crossed the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kvyat and Albon both broke down late on.
Yeah. So Latifi just outside the points in his first race, purely because he was there in the finish. But hey, like you said before, you got to finish first. First, you got to finish. George Russell obviously didn't finish.
He's having a good race as well.
He was, yeah, but similar to Max Verstappen, appeared to have some sort of mechanical issue, which meant he could not continue. Was it gearbox actually? With
his transmission.
Yeah, so when he went to change gear coming out of turn 3, nothing happened.
But it didn't sound like sound like anything broke.
No,
I think we saw the dash just like faded out at one point. I think it was something just powered down.
Yeah, so rather than try and make it back to the pits, he pulled over and was just like, "Nah, you're all right, actually. Thanks. I'll just get out here,
enjoy the countryside."
Yeah, why not?
But George was looking. It was looking good on Saturday. Damn near made it into Q2 for the first time in a Williams.
12
thousandths, wasn't it?
12 thousandths, something like that. Yeah. He was away
so
from
close.
getting into Q2. I thought he'd done it.
Yeah, I did. I wouldn't be surprised if he manages to do it this weekend.
Depends. We were saying that everybody else is going to pick up their speed a little bit, aren't they?
You think it would be relative, though?
Talking about Williams, it really depends how aggressive they want to be and how their development is going to go for the rest of the year.
A lot of
but it's good to see
the worry
Williams
this year, though, is going to be with replacing engine components because they've still got the same number. But how long do they have to use them for?
I know, it's a gamble, isn't it?
Because they don't know the rest of the calendar yet.
At the moment, we've got 8 races. So have you got 3 sets for 8 races, or have you got 3 sets for 15 or any number in between those two?
Yeah,
I will say this for Williams: it's positive given what we've seen and heard coming out of Williams since the beginning of 2020, in the losing the Rocket sponsorship deal. Having to, find extra financing from somewhere, possibly selling part of the team. The car is not thousands of miles off the pace like it has been the last couple of years. It's there or thereabouts. It's
last but closer to Haas.
It possibly, yeah.
You got one qualified ahead of 2 Alfa Romeos.
Yeah. It looks like with a little bit of luck, Williams could finish the season 7th, maybe. This midfield from like the 3rd team right the way to the back.
I still think they'll be last in the constructors because, like, when you're saying that they outqualified like 2 Alfa Romeos,
2 Alphas and a Haas.
But during the race, although the Alphas certainly weren't like good by any stretch of the imagination, they were still much quicker than Williams. I think it's just.
I don't know. I was looking at race pace and. George certainly.
That's the thing.
Was,
I think
was comparable
he's the difference
to the speed that the Alphas and the Hasses were going.
Yeah, I think George is just wringing the neck of that car.
Probably why it broke.
Yeah, probably.
It could be that it's a case of maybe the car. All right, it's better than last year. Latifi is getting everything out of the car that can be got out of the car, but George Russell is like the +1 on it.
Yeah, he seems to be one of those drivers that can, like a Max Verstappen or a Lewis Hamilton, that can take a car and make it go quicker whether it wants to or not.
I think that's the case, and I think what Kubica was doing in the Williams last year was what the Williams was capable of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think he sort of showed that more when he drove the Alpha
absolutely
during pre-season testing, because he was doing times that were far in advance of what anyone expected the Alpha to do with him in it.
He was quicker than Giovinazzi, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he wasn't as quick as Kimi, but he was quicker than Giovinazzi.
Yeah, so I think so. I think George Russell is an extra half second in that car.
Quite likely, which nicely leads us on to Alpha, who are the next team on the list, I believe.
Yeah, now €5,000 lighter for an iffy pit stop.
Yeah,
that was one hell of a wheel failure.
So lucky. Vettel was so close to Kimi
getting wiped out by the wheel because he overtook Kimi obviously when Kimi decided to. But when he passed the wheel, but then had to turn the corner, so the wheel could have hit him as he was turning the corner.
Yeah, I think they're lucky with how the tyre ended up landing as well, because it obviously hit the barrier and came back a bit, but landed on its side, whereas it could have quite easily rolled back onto the track.
Yeah. I said at the beginning of this weekend that, and I think I said it on a race blog on Sunday, that Giovinazzi needs a really good season this year. He needs to put Kimi away, and he really hasn't. He hasn't done that at all.
It's a bad time for Alfa at the minute because, all right, we say this round about every July. Is this it for Kimi, or is Kimi going to replace Kimi? And I think this might be the last one for him.
I think it is, but I don't think. I think if.
I think Giovinazzi might be gone as well.
I was going to say it's going to be a whole new lineup in that team next season.
But I think, as far as I can see, you're going to have Mick Schumacher in that car no matter what happens. Do you not think so?
No, he's not going to get the points. He's nowhere near the best of the Ferrari Junior drivers.
He was the worst of the Ferrari Junior drivers in Formula 2.
Will he not get them even over the course of the season?
You have to be top 3 in the championship to have enough points.
That's just not happening.
No, it's probably going to be Eiler, Schwartzman or Armstrong next year.
What if they bang him in practices?
He has to have 25 points to be doing practice.
I think he's got to finish top 6 to be able to do Friday mornings.
He might have enough to do a Friday morning because he was FIA.
You get points for that now, don't you?
You do get points for doing it, but obviously you need enough points to get there in the first place.
You've got to have 25 points to be able to do Friday practices, and you get 1 point for every Friday practice up to.
This is license points, not championship points. Just to point this out to all listeners who don't.
He would have had. I think it was 25 points for winning FIA European Formula 3 years ago. They might have come
2 years
off
ago.
Now, 2 years ago.
Yeah, this is his second year in.
So he might have enough for a Friday morning. This is the kind of thing we should have looked up before.
Yeah, but that's what happens when we're unscripted.
To do a Friday morning, but
I wonder if that would get him the points if they come into.
No, because he would need to do 15 because you need 40 for a super license. So if he's got 25, he'd probably need to be top 6 in
Maybe
F2.
Kimi will be then, because if they haven't got the drivers to plug in,
or Sebastian Vettel. I'm just going to start suggesting him for everything now.
There's no way Sebastian Vettel's going to go to Alfa Romeo.
Oh, no. Mick Schumacher only needs 6th or better in the F2 Championship this year to get over 40.
It's what we've seen so far. That's a stretch.
That is going to be a stretch.
He might need his miracle car again.
And he doesn't now have enough for Fridays. He's on 20 at the minute.
Ooh.
Right. But what they could do is if how many does he need for Fridays?
25.
He needs 25, but he only needs 14 for a young driver test, so they could stick him in one of those for lols.
Yeah, but what I was thinking was, I wonder if as soon as he's got his enough to get in FP1s.
That'd be next year, though. You only get your super license points at the end of the campaign.
Right. So there's no way of getting him in the car this year to do those.
That's why they had to wait so late to announce Latifi last year, because they had to make sure he would have the license points.
Because even if they got him in the car, a team of Giovinazzi and Mick Schumacher is not what you call a point-scoring machine, is it?
No, it is not.
No, I think next year's Alpha, like you say, it's gonna be
one of the 3 that don't have famous dads plus a veteran.
Yeah. I think. I'm tempted towards Eiler because he looked good, but Schwartzman destroyed F3 last year.
I think Schwartzman is my favourite of the 5 that are in F2.
Is it Armstrong that had a really strong debut?
Yes, Armstrong was second in the feature race and was looking good in the sprint and then broke down. Schwartzman I think is the best of the 5, but I think probably could do with a bonus season.
If Kimi leaves, it'll be Grosjean.
a possibility.
Maybe.
You still got the eye on that Ferrari drive, remember?
I'm shaking my head.
Maybe he
People
should
on
put
the
his eyes on the
podcast
bloody
can't hear
road
this.
and actually maybe get
That
there,
could be
but-
Magnussen if Haas finally get around to having that
Christ.
full clear out.
Yeah.
Don't forget, they still own Ericsson.
Yeah, 'cause they
Alpha.
sort of do still own Ericsson.
They do
yeah.
sort of own Ericsson.
He's still their
Do they
official
know?
reserve driver.
Do they know that they own Ericsson? Have they forgotten?
I think they get reminded every time they put a Husky chocolate logo on the car.
And Robert Kubica is, still there.
That's not a stupid bet for someone to come in.
The veteran could be Kubica.
yeah.
Yeah, it pays well, doesn't it?
Kubica Islet, maybe, for next year, possibly. Or Kubica enter rookie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Because Ferrari get to decide one of the seats, don't they?
Yeah.
And
Giovinazzi
Giovinazzi
is
is
their
that
seat.
seat at
Let's
the
be
moment.
honest, Ferrari get to decide the seats. Let's be honest.
But the I do worry a little bit for Alpha and for Giovinazzi because he looked like a really good prospect when he first started. He plugged in for Pascal Wehrlein, and when Wehrlein had his accident, hurt his back. He looked really good, and then last season it took him a while to get going. And then towards the end of the season, it's like, oh, okay, maybe there is something to Antonio Giovinazzi. And then I said this season he really needs to put Kimi away, and Kimi overtook him on track.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only did he overtake him on track, he was told to move out of the way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because it was an allowed move, wasn't it? So not only did Kimi have
I think
to
he
go,
fought him a bit, didn't he? He had a bit of a...
maybe fought him, but when he went past, it was very much all right, on you go, lad.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want to be 23, 24, I think Giovinazzi
It'll be
is.
about that, yeah.
Having your 41-year-old teammate just,
Rinse you every weekend.
Yeah. I think
you don't need that.
he's like, I mean, Ferrari are getting to a similar thing, I think, to where Red Bull were with their meat grinder sort of 5-6 years back, where they've signed loads. They're starting to realise which ones are good, and now they don't have the seats for half of them. So a load
Well, they
of them are
signed
just gonna
Carlos
get fucked off.
Sainz ahead of anyone else in the Ferrari driver academy for next year. So that's that speaks volumes, doesn't it? How much faith they have in their own driver academy.
Well, look at this is where driver academies don't seem to be working. You can argue the same for Red Bull now because Max was signed outside of the driver academy. Albon was sacked from the driver academy and then rehired. So you can say he was brought in outside the academy, really.
Gasly was demoted from Red Bull back to Toro Rosso because he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Kvyat was
And
binned.
Kvyat was binned twice and has been brought back because they didn't have anybody with enough super license points to put in that car.
Turns out if you sign 10 racing drivers, you don't get 10 Formula One drivers.
Correct.
They're like shinies.
The problem is
Buy a
though,
pack of
because they have gone through this, like, let's just stick a new one in. When they rejigged the super license points thing a couple of years back, it used to be that if you won FIA European Formula 3, you instantly had enough points to be an F1. Same with F3.
Because that's how Max got in, because he bypassed...
Yeah, Lando as well. Lando
Yeah.
didn't need to fuck about with F2. He had enough for a license straight away. He just went there for, I think, the experience because the seat wasn't there
It does
yet
make
for him.
sense. It does make sense that if you win like a Premier Class feeder series, you should be allowed into Formula One. Not maybe not sort of. I think the point system should be there to keep the idiots out.
Yeah.
But I think there should be, or even if the points are there, but like a dispensation. If you win F2 or F3, then you can put your name towards the board, and they
That's
will
the thing,
look
it's
at
now
your record.
only
I'd-
F2. Only F2
I'd
is
throw
enough.
Indy Lights in there as well.
Yeah.
Really?
No, but
Patrizio Award is like the most hyped thing to come out of there recently. He did one F2 race and was so shit he got binned
Yeah.
from all of F1.
that seemed harsh as well.
Meat grinder, innit?
Yeah. But like that's what I mean about thinking of it as like Premier Class ones. There should be if you're in like a World Championship feeder program and you do really well at it, then you should be able to bypass, or even you should be able to bypass it to FP ones. And if you can do whatever percentage you want of your teammates' time or of like the fastest lap time, then you should be like applicable for it. But anyway, I don't care about them.
If it's a license, make them take a test.
Yeah.
But
It's
I mean,
not a stupid idea.
But Alfa Romeo though going forward, it's going to be tough for them with the Ferrari engine. The Sauber development, who we don't know, obviously they're following a Ferrari philosophy, but a Ferrari deciding to rejig their entire car, that doesn't speak well for Alfa. So we'll see what happens with Alfa, but I do expect them to be lingering at the back for most of the season amongst the Haas and the Williams, which is a shame for them, really.
It is a shame.
Yeah, three-way fight for the minor placings.
I think that's what might do it for them as far as keeping Kimi. I can see Kimi enjoying Formula One if he was in the midfield and he's racing people. He doesn't seem like the sort of guy that wants to hang around.
Well, this is his ideal season.
Getting blue flagged.
No fans, no press, no sponsorship commitments.
Yeah, this should be good for him.
I just turn up and drive a car and don't have to talk to anyone. Shit, where do I sign? Can we do this every year?
Formula Kimi.
Yeah.
And even when I do have to speak to someone, it's like from a mile away.
Yeah. Just pretend you can't hear them and walk off.
Right, who is next up?
Renault, I believe.
Yes, it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ricciardo DNF. What was the issue with his car? Because he
It
just
broke.
slowed
It
and
did break.
slowed
I
and
can't
stopped.
remember off the top
He
of my
was
head.
following. Was he following Ocon? I can't remember. He was following somebody quite closely. Actually, I have a feeling it was a McLaren. He was following a McLaren quite closely.
Probably Sainz then.
Following a McLaren quite closely, and then all of a sudden, when it looked like he might go for the move, he didn't go for the move. It didn't go well, and all of a sudden, he had to back out the move. And then before he knew it, he was miles down the order.
Well, apparently, Daniel Ricciardo rattled Ocon because Ocon couldn't work out how he was so fast.
Well,
Interesting.
Daniel Ricciardo's not had 18 months out of Formula One.
Yeah, that probably
No,
helps.
but looking at the data, apparently Ocon couldn't work out why he was quicker than him.
Multiple race winner Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Well, this
So this is multiple crasher.
Was
Esteban
faster
Ocon.
than fighter with teammate.
I've said for ages he wasn't as good as Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez is at best a B-tier driver, and I thought Ocon was good enough to get into Formula One. He was good enough to fight for his place in Formula One. I don't believe he did enough to come back. I think it's going to become evident.
That French passport speaks volumes.
Yeah, that will become evident over the season as to sort of, the Ricciardo Ocon battle. After one round, it's definitely Ricciardo's.
Ricciardo rinsed him.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah,
He was down in
single lap
16th,
pace.
16th or something like that, and Ricciardo was up fighting for points.
Yeah, single lap pace, and in terms of general, race pace as well.
That was the biggest gap between teammates this weekend.
It was Ocon who got points, though.
Oh yeah, no, but it's I know what you mean, but I think that rule only applies if you've crashed into the side of somebody.
Yeah. Ricciardo did tell the reporters afterwards it was a cooling issue, apparently.
Okay.
What, left his lagers in too long?
Maybe.
Hopefully they'll sort that out for this coming weekend then.
May not be as much of an issue if we're going to get rain.
No.
I think
Might
we've
not
seen
be.
this before at Dry Austria, haven't we? That just because of the long straights and the constant thrashing, it can be a bit of a.
And the fact they've got
heating.
mountains instead of rumble strips.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what is it? It's the circuit with the third highest percentage of driving flat out behind Spa and
I
Monza.
think so, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
But
Makes
but
sense.
it's the
It's
curbs. It's the curbs that really do them,
Yeah.
though, isn't it?
That's why we're getting the messages for lots of drivers to stay off the curbs. But yeah, Renault was Renault had, I don't say they had an anonymous race because they didn't, but they didn't appear to be much improved from where they finished last season. They didn't appear to have fallen back any. Either.
I thought they
The
looked
car-
good in Ricardo's hands.
Yeah.
The car's
Difficult to
better at the
judge it,
start of the
isn't
season than it was at the start of last season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But where they finished last season, they kind of appear to be roughly in the same place, kind of able to fight with a team that's a little bit further up the order, but not able to pull anything off.
Yeah, they're not back to where they were in 2018.
No. They're able to race but not pass, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This season, they're kind of stuck in the middle, and this season will go one of two ways.
I think the way because they didn't bring their developments either, did they? They were like McLaren.
they've got new developments coming in. They said they had 3 small improvements on the Barcelona car. or the Melbourne car, or
And are they
whatever
bringing
it
those
was.
after Hungary? Because Hungary's the third race, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll see more at Silverstone.
Because I think McLaren's doing the same thing, isn't it? McLaren are bringing their updates to Silverstone.
I don't know.
Do you know what? I've lost
Not
track.
sure.
All I know is we saw a new Mercedes floor going in like the second the flag dropped. It was like instant. There it is.
So
But yeah, everyone else's development schedule, I've kind of lost
I
track.
think Renault will be all right. I think coming towards the end of this season or midway way through this season, like you say, probably when we get to Silverstone, wherever midway ends up being.
It could either be 2 weeks' time or October.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Racing Point, McLaren, and Renault very close to each other.
That would be good for Renault.
And I think Ferrari are going to drop behind them,
Maybe.
or at least be with them.
Yeah.
They're not going to be with Red Bull.
No, I wouldn't have thought that Ferrari would be with Red Bull. It would be very harsh. It would be very impressive development if they were.
I feel sorry for Sebastian. I hope he beats Leclerc. I think it's fucking hilarious, the rest of it. If you take Vettel out of the situation, I fucking love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I've been saying it all week, and I'll say it again before we get to Ferrari. It's 1991 all over again. The car's a dog, and they've got a lead driver that's leaving and doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Can I just point out as well that these cars carry over to 2021.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there we go.
And then they've got a whole rule shake up to get wrong.
Yeah. And it's all aero.
Yeah, and don't forget it's an engine freeze as well. So they've got to
if this
work
engine's
out.
fucked, they're fucked like long term.
They've got to work out how to do what they were doing, but legally.
2026?
For now.
Yeah, at the moment.
Talking about erectile dysfunction isn't easy. Usually, we just brush it off or blame ourselves, saying things like, I lost my mojo, or we avoid it altogether with excuses like, I had a long day at work, or sorry honey, I'm just not feeling it. But with Roman, it is easy to talk about it, with a real doctor who can prescribe real medication. It's simple, safe, and totally discreet. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. The doctor will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, Roman will ship it to you with free 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to getroman.com/4wheels and complete an online visit. Erectile dysfunction used to be tough to tackle, but now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with a doctor and take care of it. Go to getroman.com/4wheels today. If approved, you'll get $15 off your first order of ED treatment. That's getroman.com/4wheels. getroman.com/4wheels.
So who's after Renault?
Alpha Tauri.
And we did clarify over the weekend, didn't we? It is Tauri.
It is.
Yeah.
Because Alpha Tauri sounds like Boris Johnson. Well, it does.
If you're going to race at home. But if you can't race at home, race somewhere else.
Go to the pubs, but don't go to the pubs. And be safe, but don't stay too safe.
Yeah, I mean, Kvyat was classified but didn't finish.
He had that puncture. There was him and Vettel had a little bit of contact when
Light
Vettel went
brushing,
past.
I think.
Mm.
And I think we think that's what might have caused Kvyat's puncture. Is he went to brake into turn one, his back tyres went no thanks, and just let go in spectacular style with 2 laps to go. Was that?
Was it the penultimate one?
Penultimate
It
lap.
looked more like a suspension failure.
Don't forget, we were actually surprised by the finish because we didn't know what
everything was
lap
going.
we
I was
were
like,
on.
oh
It's like,
shit, the checkered flag.
Lando, this is happening. Kvyat's retired. Oh fuck, Bottas has just won.
Crap, that's it. The race is over. Yeah,
At
that
some
actually
point
happened
near
in the
the
vlog
end,
room.
a wheel came off Kvyat for a reason.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking that they did? If it wasn't for the retirements, they looked nothing like scoring points.
I think Gasly was in the top 10 at
Some point.
I think he was kind of, before a lot of people dropped out, he was sort of skirting around the top 10.
But they're more towards Haas than they are.
They're probably a
towards-
sort of 13th, 14th
Yeah.
naturally, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're probably if we're going to say this, like at the head of the backpackers.
Yeah.
Or
Ambitions of
Formula
midfield.
1.6.
1.6 is a good one. Yeah.
They're like the front of the bollocks.
Okay.
Yes,
we'll
let's
with
go with that.
that. Yeah, we'll go with that. Does that make Bottas a bell end?
Yes.
Bottas is all right.
Yeah, they're a bit anonymous, to be honest, for most of the race.
Yeah,
AlphaTauri,
Yeah.
Gasly was he usually does something quite spectacular, in terms of either, passing cars to, in places where you really wouldn't expect Gasly to pass anyone, or does something ridiculously stupid early doors in a season. But no, very anonymous race for both Gasly and Kvyat.
I think the Kvyat wheel coming off bit was about as much screen time as they got.
Yeah, I don't think
To
they got.
the extent when we saw it, I was like, which livery is that? I can't remember.
Yeah,
I did put on the blog that Vettel overtook Kvyat like a torpedo.
Like a torpedo.
Yeah. Yeah. Vettel did pass Kvyat. It was roughly half a lap before that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's just under the heavy braking for turn one. Whatever it was that let go on Kvyat's car, let go in a big way, and he said, "Puncture, I'm done, I'm out. See you later." And yeah, that was race over for Danny Kvyat.
And you
Right,
can't,
really,
I haven't really got
Yeah.
much more to say about
No.
the whole AlphaTauri performance. It was just,
Meh.
yeah,
Sure, they sold some nice
E-
T-shirts.
No, do you know what?
expensive scarves.
When they released that car, I thought that looks fucking ace.
But it doesn't look great on
No,
track,
it
does
doesn't,
it?
no.
No, the Williams looks good on track.
Williams looks all right. But yeah, I was quite surprised because I thought that was going to look like the best looking car in the grid. I think it's McLaren actually the best.
I think the best looking car on the grid is that black Mercedes.
Do you think? Because I think it just looks like the. Because I looked at it when they released it and I thought that looks ace. And then when I saw it on track, I think it looks like the Honda McLaren.
No, I just think it looks mean as fuck.
No,
I
no.
really like it.
It doesn't look like the Honda McLaren.
It's gone quickly.
It moves.
This is just like Instagram, though, isn't it? With good lighting and a bit of a filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Anything
Yeah.
can look good.
Yeah. Yeah. So Racing Point up next then.
Strolling Q3.
Not
Yes.
just strolling Q3. The pink Mercedes, as we've joked about them being, because obviously it's very close aerodynamically to last year's Mercedes. But if you give Stroll an okay car, he appears to do an okay job.
Yeah.
We've ragged quite a lot on Stroll over
He
the
was
last
quite
3
far
years.
behind, not far behind because it was so tight. But, when actual qualifying shook out, Perez stood out over him.
I think there was a couple.
But
few
we've
tenths
said
in
this
it, but-
before. Qualifying is just about Stroll's weakest area. Because, how many times did he get knocked out in Q1
Yes.
last year
Yeah,
and
that's
still
fair.
end up in the points at the end of the race?
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, he can race, but
David Coulthard was shit over one lap.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's one shot qualifying destroyed him.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the race that Stroll was having looked like he could have been up there with Perez.
yeah.
He probably would have been very close to Sergio
Mm.
Perez had he not had that issue, which looks like he ran wide either at turn one or where there were the problem curbs just one too many times,
Mhm.
and it was because of Stroll's issue that the other teams were alerted that there might be an issue with cars running over the.
Yeah.
They come on
He's
saying it was a
jumped
diff issue.
Giovinazzi in my league.
He's jumped
Yeah,
Giovinazzi.
of drivers should be in Formula One. He jumped over Giovinazzi.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I think Stroll he's done a very competent job in a car that looks to be possibly the third, maybe the fourth best on the grid at the
Yeah.
moment. It's hard to tell, but
yeah, it was the curbs that caused the diff problem, and of course that just lost him all his traction coming
But
out
he-
of corners, and he was losing massive amounts of speed.
he was just the last
every
one.
exit.
Yeah, he was just the first one to find the problem. So it's unfortunate when that happens because everybody else gets warned about it. Much like the only thing I could think of was a British Grand Prix 2013, I think, when Hamilton got a puncture.
Oh, the year
And
the year of all the punctures.
Yeah, and
Yes.
everyone was told to stay away from the curbs because of the punctures. Just unfortunate that it happened to Hamilton first. It happens sometimes in you get problems with certain things on certain circuits. But otherwise, I think Stroll would have been up there with Perez, and we know that Perez very narrowly missed out on a podium.
I don't think he'd have had the race pace to match Perez or Lando. Or Sainz, to be perfectly honest.
He could
Maybe.
have been a solid ahead of Gasly.
Yeah.
He would have been up there with those cars, though. I think.
I think he'd be backing them up.
Racing is his stronger point,
Yeah.
not the qualifying, as Paul said. He is
His
able to
racing
race.
point
Yeah. What he's not able to do is notice when cars come up behind him, which is strange because right towards the end of the race, Sergio Perez totally did not see Lando Norris coming up at turn 3.
No, but we've got a theory behind that because it was just after the penalty got announced. And Sean, it was you that said it. He was probably on the radio arguing with the team over the pit lane speeding penalty had just been given.
Don't think it was me who said that.
Wasn't it you that
I
said
don't think that was credited to me.
He just wasn't looking in his mirrors, went for the apex, and all of a sudden there was a McLaren at the apex, and they had a bit of a bash just as they went in. Luckily, it didn't damage either car, but and it was unfortunate for Perez because had he not done that pit lane speed, he probably would have got podium.
Well, he shouldn't have tried to wipe out Sainz in the pits.
That wasn't his fault.
No.
Wasn't Lando?
It was Lando. It was,
Was it
yeah.
Lando?
Yeah,
I
it was
thought it was
Lando.
Sainz.
Yeah, they came out roughly. Yeah, it would have been an unsafe release from Racing Point. Not his problem. He got the green light to go.
That was another one where I thought they might have been slightly overzealous with penalties because...
What, pit lane speeding?
No, it was speeding, was it?
Yeah,
I think
it was a
unsafe
separate
release.
issue.
Yeah.
No, he got
it was the
the
release.
penalty for going 1.2 or 1.2 kilometres an hour over the speed limit.
Fuck it.
Any speeding in the pit lane is an instant penalty.
Wonder why his limiter didn't stop that.
No
Might have
idea.
just been late on the button.
No idea. Not a clue.
But I think that their pit was... This is the same thing that George Russell had in F2. They had their garage was right at the far end. So there isn't time for the limiter to kick in.
Maybe, possibly.
Heading out.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, and particularly with being so close to someone else, he might have been a bit faffy.
Yeah,
maybe,
so there isn't
possibly.
actually time for the limiter to catch it.
Right.
Because it's measured on the average speed over the distance from your pit box to the pit exit line.
What speed you're actually going.
So there will be some cases with drivers where they will be clocked for a minute portion of a second going over the pit lane speed limit, but the limiter catches it and pulls them back down, and then the average across the full distance means that they stay below 80 kilometres an hour.
That seems like a bad way of doing it.
Yeah, I think it's done on speed gun like it is. Like it is here. It's not like a man with a fucking head dryer.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
I thought they had like radar.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. But the signs look good for Racing Point for the rest of the season. Let's be honest, it looks okay. It looks a lot.
Yeah.
They look like they are.
They are going to be fighting at the top of the second division. However many teams are in that second division.
Yeah, it's either them or McLaren that have got the third best car at the moment.
Tell you what, they are a enticing team for somebody to join. You know.
Yeah, but when they rebrand as Aston Martin next year,
Well, not even. Well, yeah, but even towards the future, I think they've played a fucking masterstroke that will make Aston Martin a championship contender come 2022, because they
could well do. Yeah,
They know what next year's car is. They know what next year's car is because
It's last year's Mercedes.
Yeah, and but they also know the path they can take on it. They're getting help. They've had help with what they're doing. They're designing 2022 cars now.
of course. Yeah. Some of the top teams are already working on that
But they can shift focus completely very near.
because they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. I just think you've got a good car this year. You're going to have a decent car next year, and I really do think this is going to be a building process that puts Aston Martin as one of the top teams in Formula One.
But yeah, at the moment they're looking ahead of Ferrari in terms of actual pace.
Yeah,
Having that big Mercedes
solid mid shaft.
Having the Mercedes lump in the back's not
Top
going to
end.
do them any damage.
No, that's not gonna do them any damage at all. No. That technical partnership that they've got with Mercedes, making sure that all the rear end suspension is the same.
Well, it has to be to fit the gearbox.
Yeah.
Because they don't make their own gearboxes; they buy them in from Mercedes.
Well, if you look at the back end of this year's Mercedes, it's a lot different to all the other cars. So the rear end of this year's Racing Point is probably identical to last year's Mercedes. So I can understand why they've gone down the route that they have.
Yeah, I
can also understand why other teams are like, excuse me, that's not very fair.
Yeah, I agree. But the thing is nobody was really moaning about it when it was Haas doing it with Ferrari.
Nobody was moaning about it when it was Toro Rosso doing it.
Yeah.
It looked like a Mercedes. It just Astra like.
The only thing they're upset is the fact that Racing Point have done it well.
Yeah, they've done it slightly better than everyone else, and now everyone else is just jealous they didn't do it to the same level.
I remember when we had Scarbs on the show for our very first pre-season preview in March.
First of many.
When he said, "I've seen the underneath that car, and it's still very much a Racing Point Force India underneath the car, underneath the skin, but the skin is very much Mercedes."
Yeah. I'm happy to have Racing Point fighting for podiums. I'm happy that like it seems this year that Red Bull, McLaren, and Racing Point and Ferrari are all going to fight for podiums.
I mean, you got this year's Merc and McLaren and a Racing Point on the podium. It looked like giant fucking licorice also.
I'm semi-convinced Merc will win every race though.
Every race,
That's
it's well, they did look strong, but I think is it Ferrari next on the list?
Are we into the top three?
Possibly. Let's have a look. Oh, I've lost my
Christ.
list.
Oh, Chris!
Yay, technology!
Keep it together.
Yes, I think it will be.
Ferrari are third.
Somehow.
Charles Leclerc able to wrestle that absolute beast of a car around. And just being lucky with the safety cars. He's admitted himself he was lucky with the safety cars. P2 probably wasn't on.
Oh, he said it felt it was as good as a win for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always championed him.
He's your favourite, isn't he?
No, he did a good job, didn't he? It was a good
He
drive.
was fairly we didn't see much of him in the race.
Stayed
I
out of trouble.
didn't
Yeah.
he just kept it clean.
He got some hassle off Norris early doors, and then eventually got past Lando. And apart from that, we didn't really see an awful lot of Charles Leclerc. My favourite point of Charles Leclerc was the qualifying at the end of P2 when he asked, "Are we safe?" And the response came back, "Yeah, P10." And he responded, "That's crazy."
Yeah.
I think I tweeted, "Charles, you're P10," and Charles' response was basically, "Fuck right off."
But I mean, Vettel, Q2.
Yeah.
Well, his lap wasn't as bad as his qualifying lap last year. He just didn't make it to Q3.
It was better, but also worse.
He was better. The car was worse.
Yeah.
And looking at the onboard lap that Formula One themselves have put out of Vettel going, by himself round the track during the race, the car is twitching here, there, and everywhere. It twitches one way, it twitches the other. It's understeering, it's oversteering. He can't put his foot down because
Bonotto did
the
say,
balance is so bad.
Yeah, he did say after the race that something happened with what they did with the car from Friday to Saturday, and Friday Seb was happy with the car, and
Saturday he wasn't.
It was just gone.
Yeah, and it just
left a dust cover on or something.
Knows.
I mean, they brought the upgrades forward. The ones that they weren't going to bring in till Hungary, they're now bringing it in this weekend.
It's not an upgrade. It's essentially a new car, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's a new car. I think it's. I can't help but think that's a PR stunt from Ferrari.
What, we need a new car?
Yeah. But the no, because I think they're trying to make it sound like they're changing everything radically. Where, I mean, realistically, like any teams that brought updates this weekend had a new car from
absolutely,
testing.
but no aero package on that car.
It's going to fix that engine. No,
that's exactly it.
No, it's what is it? A new aero package, or some of it that they're bringing straight in. That we're going to use at Hungary.
Well, that's going to work well because when Ferrari are like reactionary, it always works.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad idea to bring it to the same circuit that you've just had a bit of a disaster
for
because
data.
you will see very quickly whether it's better or not.
Yeah.
But
Well, Bonotto's screwed. He's got the vote of confidence from the CEO.
Oh, Christ.
Mattia Binotto,
Gone
it's
by
been a
Silverstone.
fun ride. Yeah.
Sebastian Vettel might as well come out of the garage, not even get into it on Friday, just put a sledgehammer through the engine.
And then it goes faster.
What do you think? What do you think the upgrade is? Seb, it's not hammer time.
I love seeing Ferrari struggle. It makes me feel all warm and cozy.
The thing is, it harks back to what we were saying earlier in the podcast.
That's
about,
hilarious.
Well, yeah, it's hilarious because we think, well, we're 99% sure they were cheating last year.
99.9.
Yeah.
Mark Webber, did you hear his quote last week about Ferrari?
No, I didn't know.
Struth.
Yeah. Forget Maranello. Stop being all Ponzi and Italian. Move to Britain. You'll do better.
Wow.
That will not go down well with the Tifosi.
Italians.
Yeah.
No, it will not go down well with any
Probably
of
will
you.
go down well with the Conservative Party as well. All the bloody foreigners.
Better do it quick. Only got till November.
Yeah, suddenly this car manufacturer moves over from Italy and renames itself Blacksmith. Because that's what Ferrari is.
Yeah. Referred to as the strutting bulldog.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
St. George Cross with an angry bulldog on it.
Tommy Robinson in as a team owner.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are the stumbling pony this week.
Nigel Farage, CEO.
Oh no, Farage.
But yeah, I can see what Mark Webber's saying.
Only race at Silverstone.
I'm not going to say it. I can see what Mark Webber's saying about stop with the harking back to previous glories and things like that, because it doesn't work well in any sport. If you look at any team that harks back to previous glories and tries to recreate that somehow, it doesn't work.
Usually takes about 30 years to win the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Liverpool are a prime example of that in the Premier League. Congratulations to them for winning the Premier League this season, but it's only after Jurgen Klopp came in and was basically wipe the board, start with doing it my way, and this is the way we're going to do it. But in keeping with how the club has worked before, and success has just come along. Brilliant. They've won. Well, they've won Champions League last year and Premier League this year.
Yeah,
fantastic.
How did Portsmouth get on tonight, by the way?
They did not go through.
Oh.
And well done for bringing that up.
So you've got. That's the kind of the way you should do it. The philosophy is you've got to change with the sport, but also, there's a fine line to try and keep the imbalance. Moving to Britain is totally that's not going to be what's going to happen to Ferrari. They won't do that. They'll stay in Italy. And
also, they'd get it wrong, wouldn't they?
Yeah, of course they would.
Honest.
Yeah, they'd be in like Inverness or something.
Yeah, you want to move to the area where all the Formula One teams are, where you've got the local circuit that everyone's able to sort of do some development work at, and Ferrari moved to 3 doors down from Alton Park.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Actually, it's not a bad shout. They could buy Alton Park and just test there all year.
Marin Alton.
Yeah.
File Dorano.
Maybe, yeah, File
Derby.
Dorano. Derby. Yeah, just move over here. Move to the Isle of Man.
Well, they are the 3-legged horse. This I'm going to quit with those now.
I'm glad you backed out of that one.
Yeah.
But Ferrari, I know what Mark Webber's saying. They do need to stop this constant look at who we are, look at how great we've been. When you take away the fact that Kimi Räikkönen looked into a championship in 2007, they haven't done anything really since the year before that.
Massa. They had a good car.
They had a good car and they almost won the World Championship.
Yeah. But what they did do is
they weren't successful though.
They almost won the World Championship and then destroyed themselves forever.
I think they won the Constructors that year, didn't they? 2008.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. That's 12 years ago. I'm not being funny.
Of course they did, because Kovalainen.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say COVID-19 then.
No. Kovalainen was much worse for them.
But yeah, just do something different. They can't approach the sport the way they've been approaching.
It's not even approaching the sport, is it? It's the way they approach building the team. It's like they've gone and got is it Rory Byrne that they took?
They did try and get Rory Byrne out of retirement, but Rory Byrne is now 80, I think.
Yeah. So who was the McLaren guy they've got in? Didn't they get the Spygate guy?
I don't.
Didn't he
know.
go back? White hair. They took somebody on. Anyway, I think it was somebody.
Well, that's the problem. Ferrari have got the revolving door recruitment policy.
Yes. But
so
it's not just that. It's that they're constantly trying to put together like the team again. They're trying to get the band back together.
It's gonna be, we're bringing this guy in. He's gonna make us successful.
Yeah.
He's the missing link. 18 months later, it didn't work straight off. He's gone. We're replacing him with this guy who's even better than the last one.
Maurizio Riva-Bene needs to come back.
Yeah. Just for entertainment.
I don't think. No, I think it's Stefano Domenicali. I think he's been the best team boss they've had.
And he's done a good job with Audi as well since he's been there. So
because to be fair, it's when Arriva Bene came in that like he was great and he was passionate and he wanted Ferrari to do it, but that's when the wheels really started falling off.
Yeah, but that was also at the same time that
they were still building cars.
I can't remember his name. The big boss.
Oh,
Sergio Marchionne.
Luca Marzemolo.
No,
Marchionne.
Marchionne. That's when he started micromanaging everything.
Yeah,
and it all went to shit.
Yeah, but he's dead now, isn't he?
Arriva Bene was the fall guy. Yeah, it's Luis Camilleri that's in charge of it now.
But they were still building cars then that could win world championships.
No, I think then they were building cars that almost could win a world championship and could win races, but they had Fernando Alonso in it.
No, I mean, I'm talking post that. I'm talking Vettel Raikkonen era.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Ferrari. They're still building cars. 2017, arguably, they really should have had a good shot at winning time. I remember we sat here, I think it was 2017, might have been 2018. We sat here and just said, look, Ferrari could the pace they've got now, they could win every race from now to the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And they won at Belgium, and we thought, that's it. It's game over. Ferrari have got the championship wrapped up. Went to Monza, and all the pace disappeared.
Gone.
And Mercedes got a 1-2.
I think the other problem they've got is always like looking at team bosses, and you can imagine them playing like top trumps, where they've got one picture of him with some numbers under it. Then they've got Jean Todt in this hand. Like, no, he doesn't quite measure up to Jean Todt. Let's get somebody else in. They do the same with designers. They sacked fucking Ellison. Do you know what I mean? That's ridiculous. They sacked Ellison. We don't know this for sure, but they appear to have got rid of him because he needed time off because of what happened to his wife.
Yeah.
Which is fucking ridiculous.
Well, he decided he was going to stay at home more often, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because for family time, and they didn't like that.
And if I was Ferrari, I'd have turned around and said, fucking email us. We'll fucking do this on Skype. We need you to build our cars.
Yeah.
And then every driver that comes in, they've looked in as like some sort of knight riding in to save Ferrari. And when it hasn't worked out, they've fucking battered them. They did it with Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah.
They've done it twice, yeah. They did it with Fernando Alonso, even though he was fucking wrestling a car that had no fucking right to be on a podium to wins.
Yeah.
And now they've done it to Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah.
If you're a Ferrari fan, it's fucked.
Yeah, it is.
1991 all over again.
Well, 1991 they had the worst car on the grid. They just had two of the drivers that they could afford to pay who were pretty good, and they didn't finish.
But they didn't like the drivers being honest about the car.
No.
I still see the problem. I think
What was
Ferrari
it?
have
Prost called
got.
it a tractor.
Prost called it,
Yeah.
which is strange because that harks back to the old Lamborghini Ferrari argument, because Lamborghini were tractor manufacturers, and when they went into building cars, Enzo Ferrari dismissed them as the Italian tractors. So for Prost to call Ferrari a tractor really hurt Ferrari, and that's why he was given his marching orders.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just like the general slag off of the car. I didn't realise that it was that deep seated.
Yeah. My old history lesson: 3 of all those car manufacturers in Italy come about because of Alfa Romeo. Because Alfa Romeo entered the first Formula One season and won every race that year, and I still don't think any team has won 100% of the races in a Formula One season.
Williams?
No.
What about McLaren?
McLaren won 15 out of 16,
and the one they didn't win was when they run into each other.
I think so. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then you've got the Alfa Romeo. Enzo Ferrari was an Alfa Romeo driver, so he went and started his own company, Ferrari, and then he sold road cars. And the man who owned Lamborghini bought Ferrari, didn't think it was very good, so drove his Ferrari to Maranello and said, "Look, this car is rubbish, and here's why." And they gave him his marching orders, and he said, "Fine, I'll build you a car and show you how you're supposed to build cars properly." And that's how Lamborghini started building cars. So Alfa Romeo caused Ferrari to come into existence, who caused Lamborghini to come into existence.
So they invented rust.
Basically.
Do you think Sainz can help Ferrari next year?
No.
No,
I don't
because
think he'll make the situation any worse.
no. But this is the question I've got with Sainz, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how good Sainz is. You say, I know he's a very good Formula One driver. Obviously, there's no question of that. In the same way as even for all my lambasting, I think Charles Leclerc is a good Formula One driver. But I think Leclerc definitely this weekend proved that with we were talking about drivers like George Russell before that took a bad Williams
and made it look okay.
And pushed it a bit further than he did. Leclerc got on the podium by doing exactly the opposite. And in qualifying, he was just a little bit quicker than his teammate that kept him in qualifying. They need a driver. They need a number one driver.
And I think they're going to give that to Charles Leclerc, but
I don't think he's the man.
But I don't think Sainz is going to sit there and take it lightly. No, but Sainz isn't going to be told you're driver 1A or driver A, and he's driver 1, or whichever way Ferrari want to label it. Sainz isn't going to say, you are number 2.
I think
he's going to go for Leclerc.
I think if Ferrari give him the crack of it, I think he'll put Sainz away. I think he'll put Leclerc away.
I think he could do.
But he was the guy that matched favourably against Max Verstappen.
Yeah, in an equally matched car.
Yeah.
And when Max was being told to move out the way for Carlos, if you remember, because Carlos was quicker, he said no.
The infamous swearing episode where we got pulled up for swearing when we were repeating what Max had sworn.
Yeah, we repeated Max's. Yeah, we got a negative iTunes review, didn't we?
Oh no.
Yeah, negative review on iTunes because we repeated what Max's team radio had said.
He was a prick anyway.
Not Max.
No, the iTunes review.
They changed the review later and claimed that we're all massive racists and hated Hamilton, so I reported him.
Ah.
Yay.
That's when I went on that rant about we are not in any way, shape or form racist, and if you think we are, we don't want you listening to us. I stand by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, McLaren.
McLaren.
Yes, McLaren somehow.
Nosebleed.
Yeah, nosebleed territory, 26 points.
Which,
Ouch.
to be honest, if Lando would have got that bottle stunt wrong, definite nosebleed.
Has he ever got it wrong? Because he's been doing that since junior Formula,
I think he's
hasn't he?
practiced it a bit.
Well, he's been out of practice for a year or so.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the height. He'd normally have more
He'd
height
normally
on
jump
a proper
off, wouldn't he?
on a podium. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a good job.
Yeah.
And he couldn't exactly do it on the tarmac.
Well, he did.
I know. I thought he did it on the step.
He did it on the tarmac outside the garage.
Right.
He did it twice.
Okay,
He did it on the podium, and then during the notebook, that's when they caught him coming out of debrief and going back to the garage. And they gave him another bottle of champagne, and Carlos presented him with the trophy.
Yeah.
To get the second time the trophy of the day.
Yeah.
And
Fastest lap trophy.
No, the race trophy.
Oh, okay.
Basically, McLaren have a champagne sponsor, so they wanted photos of their driver with their
their
bottle of
champagne.
champagne,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the official F1 champagne.
Because they're sponsored by Chandon, and it's Mum Champagne that is the podium one. So obviously, for sponsorship reasons, they wanted that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's there with a big bottle of Moet, and he banged it off the tarmac.
Must be a bitter pill to swallow, that, mustn't it? When the big TV sponsor, when you're a champagne company, it's not your champagne.
Yeah.
But they used to have the champagne deal with Formula One, and they decided not to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because there was about 5 years ago, there was about 6 months where they had unlabelled bottles of champagne on the podium.
Yeah,
Because there wasn't an official champagne of Formula One.
Because they had like the gold stickers, didn't they, with the red flag on, like what they put on the rose water when you can't have alcohol. Yeah.
Yes, Formula One Bottles Inc.
Yeah, probably. Bernie Inc.
We don't talk about him anymore. He's
No.
dead to us. Oh, yeah. Somebody said we're going to do 25 minutes, half an hour on Bernie having a kid. No.
No, don't need to.
All the best.
Yeah.
Fatherhood's big.
Yeah, he did it for the first time 65 years ago.
Is his eldest child 65?
Yeah, imagine getting that phone call while you're at the bingo.
Mental.
I'm a sister.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, McLaren, Lando, fastest lap, first ever podium.
Yeah.
Yep. I tell you what, I didn't notice how much he got that gap down with the last lap until I looked at it. Do you know what the lap when he crossed the line for the last lap? Do you know what the gap was?
So it's like 5.4 or something.
6.0003.
So he got 1.2 seconds off in that last lap because it was 4.8. He was
told to press the overtake button out of turn 1, out of turn 2, out of turn 3, and then out of turn 8, and then all the way to the finish line.
Yes.
He basically gave that car everything it had.
That was like the Bottas last lap in Baku when he passed Stroll on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was like 6, 5.7, 5.4, and then 4.8 at the line.
I actually think that lap is the most impressive thing he's done in Formula 1.
His qualifying lap was good, but that final lap was insane.
I mean, to have that time to make up and to know you can get on the podium and essentially know that you have to set the fastest lap of the race on used tyres just to get yourself onto the podium is out fucking standing.
You know, we've seen nervous Lando a couple of times, didn't we? In his first season, he was unsure about certain moves and he backed out maybe when he shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Had that clash with Stroll.
None of that this
Spain.
weekend.
Now, I hope this is the point now where he can kick on and be like, well, I can do this. You know?
Oh, they have dropped.
Yeah.
They have dropped.
I liked that he got a bit elbowsy with Perez as well.
And
that was
and
it.
Leclerc.
Yeah.
Like when Leclerc went on and he kept his foot down all the way around the outside of the track there on the first lap.
Great start as well because he was pushing Max all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was on Max's tail to start with, but then Max did pull a bit of a gap to him. I think that's more car performance though than actual driver.
Yeah.
That Red Bull we think is much more competent race car than the McLaren.
Yeah.
Not that the McLaren is shit. My God, McLaren looks like it could be the third best car this year. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at the time they've made up from where they were to where they are, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Can't take anything away from Sainz as well.
No.
Sainz had a good race.
Yeah. Sainz did Sainz things, and I've said this since his Toro Rosso days. He got on with it.
Yeah,
he didn't do anything particularly spectacular. I think he did try fighting with Lando at one point, didn't he? When Lando lost out to
they
Leclerc,
got close at one point.
Lando got a bit out of shape, and that let Carlos Sainz in to have a go. But Lando held him off, and Sainz respectfully just sort of stayed in his place. And Sainz knows what it's like to get a podium, but not be on the podium.
Well, this is the first weekend, I think, like properly over a whole weekend, where I really felt that Lando had Sainz's number. You know, Sainz didn't look at any point this weekend like he was going to beat Lando.
I think Lando was faster than him in all the sessions. I may be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know about practice because sometimes you get them running different things and stuff like that. But like he just looked on it. And it was great to see.
It was.
I would go for Lando's driver of the day.
Absolutely.
The official one was Albon, but the majority of the voting was done
by idiots.
I was going to say before he crashed out.
Like I said on Twitter, Albon getting voted driver of the day is like voting Challenger as best space mission.
I don't think the accident was Albon's fault.
No, but there was no way was he driver of the day.
No.
This is the problem with them starting it in like the 40th lap of a 70-odd lap race. Like, you need to know in about the last 5 laps where those people are going to end up.
Yeah, especially with the voting closing when the checkered flag drops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you opened the voting when the checkered flag drops and then kept it open for 10 minutes and then closed it would have been Lando.
Yeah. It would have been Lando or maybe Leclerc.
Leclerc did a great job, to be fair, as we've already said,
Do you know what? That's what they should do. They should. It should, when the checkered flag drops is when the voting should open.
Because there's loads of dicking about before you get to the podium.
They should present. They should say it at the like when they're doing the podium interviews. Joe, because so then if it's someone that's on the podium, they can be presented with the trophy on the podium. If not, it can happen a bit later.
In the garage.
Yeah.
What if you were like, you know what, Lewis Hamilton had to start 5th today and he's done really well to get up to 2nd. I think I'll vote him as driver of the day, and then the Albon thing happened.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh wait, hang on, maybe maybe not.
That means we're gonna have to vote twice for somebody else.
I remember when it flashed up on the screen like driver of the day, vote open. One of you two mentioned Perez,
who was doing great at that.
Yeah, I was like, well, only if he gets the podium. He didn't.
Yeah.
Realistically, driver of the day was Bottas, if we're all perfectly honest.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, he held Lewis Hamilton off. He had all the problems and stuff like that. He kept his cool and he won the race.
Yeah, it moves nicely onto Mercedes.
Yeah. It does move on nicely to Mercedes.
What the hell was going on with that Lewis penalty? Because
the grid penalty.
The grid penalty. Yeah. Stewards have cleared him, didn't do anything. Then Red Bull send the stewards a tweet from Formula One.
No, I know what that is. The 360 camera on the front isn't sent to the world feed. That's actually captured on board. So
it's basically the social media team not talking to the TV team.
Yeah.
So they have to, when the cars come in, they have to then take that footage, and then that footage gets uploaded for people to watch. So it's not actually part of the stewards footage, it just turned out that on that 360 camera, you can see the light and you could see that Hamilton didn't slow for a yellow.
Yeah, it's
which he claimed he didn't see, and I can understand why he didn't see it because but at the same point,
if it's there, you should see it.
Yeah,
and you've got all the dust there as well. It was clear someone had gone off.
I couldn't see the yellow light because of all the dust, so I thought the track was clear.
It's enough info.
Yeah, I think it was pushing the luck, wasn't it?
Anybody hear Bottas's full radio message after he went off?
No, I
don't. The full radio message was
he
he went off onto the gravel, and his engineer came on and said, "Are you all right there, Valtteri?" And he's just like, "Yep, fine. Just give me a minute. I'm cutting some grass here." And his radio engineer came back on and said, "I didn't know Mercedes made lawnmowers." And then he came back on and said something along the lines of, this thing cuts grass better than my lawnmower at home. and then they gave him the message: go back round straight into the grid. You're on pole. Yeah, wasn't. You'd only just got back onto the tarmac at that point.
So, what do we talk about then as far as a Bottas championship?
Well, Mercedes looked strong, didn't they?
Well, he won in Australia last year,
but he's usually good at the first half of a season, and if we only get the first half of a season,
it could be good for him.
Yeah.
He did say as well that having that extra break, he's a lot fitter. He spent a lot of time doing the fitnessy stuff.
Yeah,
so
cycling with his girlfriend.
Cycling with the new girlfriend. And
well,
all
even
that
they
lot.
pointed out in the Sky coverage as well where nobody really knew until it was all done and dusted, but he was going through a divorce last year as well.
He was,
Yeah, that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I don't know. He looks. He looks like the kind of driver like Rosberg that could do it. If I think Lewis has still got to lose it. Do you know what I mean? I think.
No, I would disagree. I think it depends what happened. Don't forget in Australia last year, okay, we didn't have all the safety cars, but Bottas was a good 10, 12, 15 seconds ahead of Hamilton.
If he can win this next race, if he can win again,
if he gets a good lead.
Yeah. And that I think that we might be talking about this first race and Hamilton's penalty again.
Yeah, maybe
later in the season.
Yeah, possibly. Lewis was very candid about it. He said, "Look, it's not my weekend." So it didn't help that I was pulled up before the stewards right before we were preparing for the race to be told that I was being moved back to fifth. He said, I'd already prepared in my head for starting for second, but it's just the way it is. The incident with Albon, again, it's unfortunate. It's not. It's just one of those things. Not my weekend. I'll have to try hard to get the points back.
Yeah.
The next few races. So. Very Hamilton-esque answer. I
mean, he said himself he feels more laid back going into this because of the longer break that he's had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and he did. He seemed more. He didn't seem as uptight in the pen interviews because you rarely see Lewis do a pen interview after a race because
he's usually on the podium.
Yeah, that means he's not been in the top three.
Yeah,
and when you've seen him in the pen before, he's usually a lot more tense.
Yeah.
I think the top three do still go into the pen. It's just that we don't see it as much on TV because by that point you've already seen them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is pretty good these days with not allowing himself to beat himself up as much as he used to. I think we've seen that for a couple of years now. But it's just odd. I think the season's so odd. Even if we do end up having like 15, 16 races, where it's very near a full season, it just feels strange because the races are going to come at us so fast,
Yeah, thick and fast.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've still got 2 races to come in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought we were never going to have a triple header again. Well, we've got
it's
2.
happening.
We've got 2 triple headers out of the 8 races that are confirmed. And possibly more to come.
I like it. I mean, I know it's going to put an immense strain on the teams and immense strain on the.
It's not.
Don't think it will until they leave Europe.
Not going to be as hard around the sort of 2 races in one venue.
I know, but you've still got people away from home, friends and family for massive amounts of time.
That is true, though.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't care about them. That's their job. It's their job to do those things.
I think they've known and can prepare for a little while that they probably won't be coming home when they go out for the F1 season.
I think people do an awful lot of worrying about people doing their jobs sometimes.
Do you know what? If anybody listens to this who works in Formula One and is part of that travelling circus who's not going to get a message, obviously you're going to get messages home, but you want to send a message through this podcast, get in touch.
Or if you work in Formula 1 and want to be on the podcast, get in touch.
Yeah, but what I mean by
it's good for your career.
what I mean by the fact they do their job is like this is what these guys live for, especially the guys that go to races.
Yeah,
do
but
you know what I mean?
Between Austria and whatever would have been the next race, Britain would it have been anyway?
It would have been Britain, yeah.
Yeah, between Austria and Britain, you would have had 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they would have gone home and wouldn't have had to leave until probably the Thursday night to get, a lot of them and to get back to, to Silverstone, because a lot of them are based in Britain anyway.
Well, a lot of them are based within an hour's drive of Silverstone, so they'd have been able to go home every night when they were at work.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of them would probably stay at home during that Grand Prix normally anyway. Probably won't be able to do that this year because they would be breaking their bubble.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so it's going to be
the big
difficult.
one.
It's going to be difficult for people working in Formula One.
Yeah.
With the situation as it is around the world at the moment.
But I do wonder if viewing figures go up for Formula One, which, I mean, if it's all about the racing, that's what that YouTube trending thing has shown. You have exciting racing and people will get excited about Formula One. It doesn't take a rocket science to work that out. But I think just the fact that it has been exciting, and if we can get a few good races on the bounce, them being close to each other as well will help snowball viewers. And I wonder whether this is something Formula One will be looking at to think like, should we pack the season together a bit tighter?
It could
just
happen.
In general.
Just before we wrap up on the on this weekend's race, Rockstars and Wankers.
Ooh,
tough call. Lando Rockstar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lando's a huge rock star.
Yeah.
Bottas in the Rockstar category as well?
Yeah, I'd say so.
He was more of a bass player, though.
Quiet, understated.
So you mean the biggest Rockstar out of the whole lot?
No, I don't.
No, I'll go with Sean on that one. Quiet and understated.
Even worse, he
but
was a
the performance was
5-string bass player.
Oh, they're a freak of nature. I only own one and it's an acoustic. Bass, not bass player.
So rock stars, I would say McLaren, probably Racing Point as well. They've got it together. It looks like they've got good racing cars. Wankers,
Haas brakes,
Ferrari and Haas,
and Alfa Romeo pit crew.
Yeah.
Tighten up your tyres.
If you take his
it stayed on for 2 miles.
If you take his DNF out of it as well, I'd stick Ricciardo in that category, because
Rockstar,
up until his DNF, he looked like the Ricciardo of old.
Yeah, not like he might be outperforming the car, which is what you want from your driver.
Predictions, we'll just gloss over the who did what, but suffice it
we
to
missed
say that
no one shone.
Oh.
No, Wankers, Ferrari and
we talked about Ferrari
Haas.
and Alfa.
Ferrari, Haas and Alfa.
Have you got extra Wankers?
So basically everyone with a Ferrari engine is what we've said there.
Ocon.
You just don't like Ocon.
No, just because of how far behind he was. Like, he was amongst all the teammates.
And
he had the
Latifi
biggest
as well.
gap. And Latifi, yeah.
If you want to go down that road, but I don't think he was a wanker as such. I don't think Ocon was really, but I mean, each to their own.
Yeah. Leclerc.
Is Ocon going to be the new Eclair?
No, there's room in my heart for both.
Good to know.
I imagine you can get so much into that
Predictions,
black and shriveled thing.
Didn't go well.
Yeah, predictions.
It's easy when it's fucking empty.
Three of us ended up with 1 point for having a Bottas podium, but none of us had him for the win. I think.
No, I said
had him
Leclerc
on the podium.
Yeah, but you had a Bottas
No,
podium.
he got his point for Leclerc.
Or was it Leclerc?
Yeah, I
was
put
on
Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton. I think ahead of my 3. So I got my 1 point for Leclerc being on the podium, which was totally a fluke.
I think I had Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen.
So you got a point
ideal.
for Bottas.
1 point for Bottas.
Yeah, I think I had the same as well.
So something similar.
Yeah, and everybody else did really terribly. Right, so same again this weekend, same circuit, called the Styrian Grand Prix for sponsorship reasons, because I don't know if anybody watched the Notebook straight after the race, but they were already out painting the new sponsorship banners.
Okay.
On the pit straight.
It's going to rain, innit? You can't be doing painting in the rain.
And she's a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Bloody is. We have predictions in from our guest predictor this week is regular iRacing participant and winner of a competition on Lightning McMuffin's Twitch stream last night. So it's Zach Flieger.
Hello, Zach.
He is going for a Hamilton win, Verstappen second, Leclerc third. Rockstars, McLaren, and Vankers, Williams.
Vanker's very good.
Vanker's Williams. Right. Also, Dan from an undisclosed location says...
Dan from his COVID bunker.
Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. Right, what are the rest of us?
I am going to go for the same 3 as Dan, but in a different order. I am going to go for Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton.
Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton. Okay. Anybody going next? Well, one of us is going to have
Someone
to.
has to, yeah.
I will go
Or either
Verstappen.
we sit here for an hour just playing chicken.
Yeah. Just staring at each other.
If it takes more than a minute of silence, you get Grosjean for the win. That's the rule.
I
Yeah.
like that rule. That's it for the season.
Yeah. Verstappen for the win.
Yeah.
Bottas second, Hamilton third.
Okay, and Lee.
I think it's really fucking hard to pick this because if you think the DNFs were bad this weekend, I think the DNFs are going to be fucking terrible this week because they can't strip the cars like completely down, rebuild them like it's back at factory time because there's no back at factory time.
Nope. Stalling.
I think
like a Red Bull.
Lando's going to win. Lando.
Alfa Romeo. I was just going to say Alfa Romeo are closest to the factory.
Lando, Max Verstappen, and Sergio Perez.
Jesus.
You are
That's
going
an exciting
wild.
podium.
Yeah.
Right, I am going to go for Hamilton,
lost so many points.
Bottas, and Verstappen.
You may not have
You're
done.
going what? Sorry, Hamilton, Bottas, and Verstappen.
Yes.
That's a popular trio in varying orders.
Yeah, I think Lewis will end up doing that one.
Yeah, I don't think. I think if Max hadn't broken down, he probably would have ended up winning the race.
Right, I sent those on our group chat, so we've definitely got proof. I'll stick those up on the site, and we can carry on comparing all season.
So that we've got proof aside from
and
this
Ferrari
recording
fans-
we're doing.
Yeah, it just saves listening to all of this back to put these on the site. If you want to join in, go to threelegs4wheels.com, go to the games section, and go for the 2020 Prediction League. Predict your top 3, fastest lap, pole, and how many DNFs. And that's how many not classified, so less than 90% of the race, because we're going on the official FIA documents.
Yeah.
We had over 200 people take part.
That's mental.
That is pretty nuts, to be fair.
That was
That's
just
great
It
because
got to Saturday and I was just watching them come in. It's like, oh shit, can the server handle it? You've got until 5 minutes before Q1 starts on Saturday, so that would be 5 to 2 UK time.
yeah.
Am I right in thinking as well no one had Norris? Of
Nobody
those
had
200.
Lando out of anything.
I put money on Lando Norris to finish on the podium. If he'd won, I would have got like 80 quid back.
Oh
but
fuck! I didn't do my story, did I?
no, you can do it now. But
Do it now before we should.
If he
Yes.
won, I would have got 80 quid back. I think second would have got me something like £34, but he finished third and got me like 12 quid.
I put £5 on Lando Norris to get a podium before Friday's practice when the odds were like a squillion to 1. Unfortunately, I pressed the wrong button and put that £5 on him to get pole. This is not my finest gambling hour.
Bet responsibly, Lee. Bet responsibly.
Yeah, with fucking spectacles.
Turn your phones over, everyone.
Right.
Do you need to turn your eyes over because you're very close to the Lee
can-
laptop?
It's okay. I'm gonna use
Oh,
Lee's,
I
this.
see.
Lee's
I
reading it off
see.
his phone. Now, after massive debate on Discord, who sent this week's shunt in?
Wings of Triumph. What a strange name.
Okay. I think I've seen that
Clearly
name.
like Wings of Triumph, but like spelt right, wasn't available. Anyway,
Solid start.
appears to be a Liverpool fan, I think. Because sorry, it's a Phoenix. I thought it was the
The liver bird.
Yeah. Because I was just going to get him all excited then and say that our friend Kit had painted that one, but it's not that one. Anyway, I was born
Yay.
Good start.
in 1972.
Right.
48.
this year.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved in 43 Formula One races.
Not very many.
Not a
That's
huge
about
amount
3 seasons in old
involved
money.
in, Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, we've got to assume there's someone who's 48. They were probably racing sort of 20-ish years ago. If they were a racer.
That is true. That is true.
So you'd be looking at 16, 17
Yeah.
races. So yeah,
That's
2.5
mathematically
seasons
about
maybe.
right, isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
My introduction to the sport was highly questioned. However, later I became liked and accepted. I'd like a guess. Don't come at me at once.
We're not doing.
What year did aerodynamics start in Formula One?
About 1960
That's
something.
done more than like 40 races, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking like a particular thing, like the raised front wing, because the front wings used to be high, didn't they? Used to be like above the nose.
Oh, or like say, no, that wouldn't work. I was going to say the F duct, but that wasn't around in 1972.
No.
I'm thinking of something like 1972. It's going to be. Could it be Grand Effect? Got Lotus with the sliding aero skirts.
Yeah, and the Brabham with its fan that wasn't mechanically operated.
That did about 42 race weekends less than 43.
Yes.
Look cool though.
True. Yeah, Lotus aerodynamic sliding skirts.
Why not?
Okay.
What else have we got?
We
at this
haven't got
point?
anything better, no, but that's very specific. All right then.
Yeah, don't forget we've had a what was it we had a few weeks back. It was like
Xena
a wheel
the Warrior Princess.
a wheel nut or something.
I've forgotten about the Xena Warrior
Yeah.
Princess. Jesus.
I began my career in 1997, though not through Formula One.
So,
Age
25?
25, yeah.
Not through Formula One.
So journalist maybe, or a.
Oh, that's interesting.
How Crofty would be about 48, would he? Possibly.
He would, but has done more than 40 races.
Correct. Keep forgetting these little facts.
So what kicked off in who would have kicked off in 97? Not in Formula One.
It would be very late for a driver, wouldn't it, to start?
How many races did James Allen commentate on?
I thought
that
he
was
was
the
a little
that was the
bit
whole
later.
of Formula One that kicked off over James Allen.
He was
Oh, I
later
thought
than
he
You
was
really
97.
still don't like him.
I started the Facebook group. F1 2009 is going to be a brilliant year. Let's make it a James Allen free zone.
How many?
I remember the look on your face, and I'm name
Quite a
dropping
few.
again. The look on your face when we were stood at the coffee bar in Silverstone at the Mercedes
James
launch.
Allen walked in.
James Allen barged in front of you and asked for an espresso, and I thought you were going to barf on him there and then, because that's what you spent all day doing. I thought he's going to projectile right on him for
I was
that.
so angry. So angry.
So not only is he a virtual twat, he's an actual twat.
Yeah.
You had to deal with James Allen and Craig Slater in one bout of food
Yeah.
poisoning. Next clue.
To this day, most of my fame comes from outside of Formula One.
We're looking at sponsor, perhaps. Then, in that case,
Sponsor or like TV channel?
The legendary adventures of Hercules, seeing as that was like the co-series to Xena. I now know more about Xena Warrior Princess than I ever wanted to. Took me 3 series before I watched it with the sound switched on.
Much like Hulk Hogan, who you will have to go and sign up to the Patreon to work out why I just said Hulk Hogan.
yep.
I am American.
Christ.
Okay.
I'd like a guess, please.
Bet you bloody would.
I am not overflowing with stuff here.
No, it's the Indy Road Course.
I think I would have thought is older than 1972.
Yeah, the inroad one might not be.
And I don't think it's done 40 plus races.
Nope.
I don't know. I am stumped.
I need a guess.
I know you do.
Something American.
I also need to go to bed.
Yeah.
I've got to get this show mixed tonight.
I'm at
Bridgestone.
work in just over
Yeah,
7
that'll do.
hours.
The Japanese, but it doesn't matter.
Just in case you thought this was Eddie Jordan.
What, the American Eddie Jordan?
Since I earned my
That's
master's
Michael
degree
Jordan.
at Harvard, I have won 52 awards.
Christ.
The only person I can name offhand with a master's degree from Harvard is Ryan Fitzpatrick,
It's
and
not
it's
Ryan
not going to be him.
Fitzpatrick.
Is we're looking at somebody who's designed or an engineer, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'll help you out slightly.
Oh,
I would
God.
use the word created.
It's going to be a livery designer.
Outside of Formula One, I've been involved in many projects. One earned me over $13 billion. Sorry, they have all earned me over $13 billion.
So we're looking at one of the world's richest men. Would be Bill Gates.
Who is more than 48 years old.
Yeah. Microsoft is roughly 48 years old, 1972.
Interesting. But I
Possibly.
feel like Microsoft.
But there was a
has
Windows
been
95
involved.
before Windows 97.
And
There was,
I feel
but
like
was it?
It's been on cars more than like 3 seasons.
yeah, hang on, I'm going to stop you here because he's worth $100 billion. Yeah. Chump change here.
How old is Gene Haas?
older than 48, I think.
I would have said about 60.
Fair enough. Shelve that.
I would have said so anyway. He looks older than...
It's one of those I can't place.
Yeah, but if you had Grosjean working for you,
It would
you'd
age
age
you.
at an abnormally fast
Yeah, I
rate.
remember Gunter Steiner looking about 12.
I have 150,000 Instagram followers.
Christ. Can't imagine that being Gene Haas. I can't imagine he's.
To be fair, it's not like for somebody that's in the public eye, not a lot of followers.
No, it's not.
Gene has his Instagram. Here is a CNC machine.
I have made an opinion. No, I haven't. I have made an appearance in several movies.
I'm
Stunned. Just stunned silence. is
yeah.
happening
I'm
here.
just.
Right, what awards are they winning then?
You have a spaffer.
If they've been in several movies, they're not winning Oscars, are they? Like 50 odd of the fuckers.
No, good lord, no.
He's absolutely done, yes.
I think so. I think we're bloody miles
I
off.
think he has. I think the spaffer is necessary.
I am involved in Formula One, most commonly noticed before and after a Grand Prix.
So, like, the lights? The checkered flag? The safety car?
The national anthem.
He's tapping.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I've got
Flood.
sod.
How's the brain going?
Not
see-
great.
you-
I'm rubbing my head, but it's not helping.
No. I thought you were trying to coax something uphill.
Yeah.
Before and after the race. Is it Michael Massey? Is that what his name is? How old is he? He's not in films, is he? Or he's
not
also
usually.
Australian, I think, isn't he? He's Aussie. Fuck knows.
No, I got now.
Nah.
I am Brian Taylor, the composer of the Formula One theme tune.
Oh, God. Oh, that's got a really weird remix for this year. I don't like it.
Give us your shitty flute, Chris.
I can't do it now. I'm laughing.
Certainly, in certain circles, a euphemism.
That was a good one. He has.
Sorry.
That one really went badly. That was a good one. He's been threatening us with that for the last few weeks. If you want to send in a total shunt,
You can tweet me at a total shunt on Instagram. You can tweet, so you can send me a private message on Instagram. You can send me a private message on the Twitter, and also if you want to send me a private message on Parler, you can do that as well now at a total shunt.
And you can email 3legs4wheels@gmail.com for ones for the reserve pile, like what I didn't have any of last week and had to write my own, which got you.
I can't remember
right up
what
until
it
the
was.
end. If you want to get in touch with the show, we are at 3legs4wheels on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We've got the website 3legs4wheels.com. You can go there to put your predictions in. If you want more of us for some unknown reason, then you can subscribe to Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels. That from as little as $1 a month. Get an extra show, non-Formula 1 related, us just talking general rubbish. And everything that you pledge there goes to basically keeping us going.
Yes.
Coming up to server time.
Oh no.
Want to thank all the new patrons that have subscribed over the last couple of weeks. Thank you to all of you. Anyone who's taking part in the iRacing, we are doing the 2009 Indy Cars at the Daytona Oval, the Legacy one, this week. And from next week, we're actually starting a proper league, so we don't have to do it on spreadsheets. And Formula Lee will be back soon.
Yep.
Next week, we'll be back. We'll probably have a review of the game next week if we get a chance, because the game comes out on Friday.
Yep. 10th.
Friday the 10th,
Yep.
yep. Unless you get the Michael Schumacher edition, which I think comes out
Tomorrow.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. You pay extra money, just like Schumacher, you can cheat.
You get 2 extra cars that everybody else doesn't get. And
3, I think it is.
Oh, is it 3?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not bothered doing that.
No.
Benetton and 2 Ferraris, so they're 2 cars that you can cheat with.
No, it's Benetton, 91 Jordan, and one of the Ferraris.
No skis?
2000 Ferrari, I
No
think.
skis, no.
Okay.
Dear God. Right, we'll be back next week where we're looking back at the inaugural Styrian Grand Prix.
Yes,
The Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria.
Styria. We'll see you next
Still
week.
in Austria.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.